You just won the Super Bowl. Yeah, you heard that right. You, the most feared linebacker in the NFL, just hoisted the Lombardi Trophy while golden confetti dumps like rain over your sweaty dome. Your 280 pounds of pure muscle and testosterone just snagged the most coveted title in American sports. And now, you're officially the most badass motherfucker in the United States of America. The post-game bash was way too epic to cram into the memory of any normal human. Dom Perignon champagne, at $5 a bottle pouring like Niagara Falls, Victoria's Secret models queuing up to snap selfies with you, A-list rappers dropping freestyle bars, shouting out your name on the fly, and your bank account straight up groaning in ecstasy from the million-dollar bonuses that just poured in like golden rain. You kinda remember slugging Jose Cuervo Reserva tequila straight from the bottle with the all-pro quarterback, belting out karaoke to We Are the Champions totally off-key, while 200 folks chanted your name, wagering a drag race between a McLaren P1 and a Bugatti Chiron down Sunset Boulevard at 3 a.m., and raking in a $500,000 bet-crushing poker with Hollywood celebs in the penthouse suite at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Pure class and sophistication, huh? You're basically the walking, talking definition of the American dream on steroids. When you finally dragged your ass back to your $20 million mansion, the one with the infinity pool, private IMAX theater, pro-level gym in the basement, and garage big enough for 15 luxury rides, you barely peeled off that $8,000 Armani tux before flopping like a sack of potatoes onto your king-size bed, shipped straight from Switzerland. Ah, what a killer bed! Mattress with individually pocketed springs using tech cooked up by NASA for astronauts, Egyptian cotton sheets with a 1/500 thread count that cost more than a downtown condo in any major U.S. city, orthopedic memory foam pillows that shape perfectly to your high-roller noggin, and a Siberian goose down comforter that wraps you up like a heavenly cocoon of ultimate chill. The total paradise of comfort for an elite baller who just owned the world. You passed out grinning like a kid on Christmas morning, dreaming about those $50 million endorsement deals with Nike and Gatorade, covers on Sports Illustrated and GQ, that fresh-off-the-lot Lamborghini Aventador SVJ you were gonna scoop up come Monday, the beach house in Miami, and maybe even owning an NFL team when you hang up the cleats. Life was perfect. Absolutely. Straight up magnificently perfect. But then, my dear shitty linebacker, the universe figured you needed a cosmic humility check real quick. And damn, what a brutal smackdown, you son of a bitch. While you were blacked out, snoring like a chainsaw after all that bubbly and victory shots, some freaky hangover voodoo went down. In your booze-fueled dream, the world started rewinding, faster and faster, like a nightmare acid trip crossed with a busted roller coaster. Skyscrapers melted, whips turned into wagons, smartphones morphed into smoke signals, and bam! You got zapped straight to the goddamn Middle Ages, thanks to whatever sadistic time Goblin calls the shots in the universe. You wake up feeling all kinds of weird and messed up, like you ate a full frontal tackle from the beefiest defensive ends across the whole league at once. Head pounding like 1,000 demons are raging a rave inside your skull. Body sore as hell like a cement truck ran you over, and a straight-up gag-worthy stench hitting your nostrils hard. Definitely not the chill, soothing vibe from your $500 AI-powered diffuser, pumping French lavender oils mixed with Aussie eucalyptus. It's something way, way nastier. Like somebody blended fermented horse shit, fish rotting under the sun for 3 weeks, sweat from Roman gladiators, and puke from a baby raised on nothing but sour milk. You crack your eyes open slow, half expecting to peep the handcrafted Venetian plaster ceiling in your 3,000-square-foot master suite, with those programmable LED lights nailing a perfect Santorini sunset blended with Norwegian aurora vibes. But nah, what hits your eyes is a totally rotted-out, worm-chewed wooden ceiling crawling with ancient cobwebs, leaks dripping steady into rusty buckets, with that annoying ping, ping, ping sound drilling into your beat-up eardrums. "What the fuck is this?" you mumble all hoarse, trying to sit up and feeling like 1,000 knives are shanking your muscles all at once. That's the exact second reality slams you like a pro-defense's surprise blitz. You ain't lounging on your 50 grand orthopedic bed with temp control and auto massage anymore. You're straight up sprawled on a total crap mattress of old soggy straw that's basically a luxury resort for rats, fleas, roaches, spiders, and every other gross-ass bug. What passes for a pillow is really a rough burlap sack crammed with dried grass, mixed animal dung, and herbs that reek like they came from a toxic swamp. You bolt upright in pure desperation, and you regret that dumb move hard right away. First off, 'cause your muscles are screaming like you just pulled 72 hours of boot camp with The Rock, John Cena, and the whole Fast and Furious crew tagging in. Second, 'cause the floor ain't your imported Italian heated Carrara marble. It's cold, damp, sticky dirt floor that sticks to your bare feet like old gum. Third, 'cause you're rocking a medieval tunic of scratchy-ass cloth that itches worse than a janky college jersey pieced together from recycled trash bags. "Where the fuck am I?" you yell out in desperation, and your voice bounces around this shitty wooden shack that makes your old college dorm look like the Ritz-Carlton's presidential suite. Cock-a-doodle-doo! Some psycho rooster starts crowing outside like medieval demons are waterboarding it. And it ain't your cute custom alarm on the iPhone 15 Pro Max with gentle bird chirps. It's a frantic bird screeching like the apocalypse is here. 'Cause for you, it damn well is. You stumble over to the window, which obviously ain't got no double-pane glass, AC, or any modern shit. It's just a crude hole in the wall with a ragged curtain that was white back in the Stone Age. And when you finally peek out, your whole world crumbles for good. No gleaming skyscrapers on the horizon. No luxury whips in heated garages. No infinity pools mirroring the sky. Zero zilch of the modern world you know and dig. What you get is a full-on medieval horror show. Crappy wooden huts tossed around randomly, folks trudging barefoot through mud like zombie cavemen, horses dropping deuces right on the path without a care, and a pukey stench of actual shit, not the figurative kind, lingering like some hellish cologne brewed by Satan himself. Everybody's geared up in outfits that look like potato sacks, tailored by a wasted, blind designer. And the teeth on these people. Jesus H. Christ, the teeth, like they got yanked with a hammer and rusty pliers. "This can't be happening to me," you whisper in full panic mode, dragging a shaky hand across your face and feeling a grimy, greasy beard that sure as hell wasn't there when you crashed last night. Where's my squad of multi-million-dollar agents? My Harvard-trained personal coach? My elite medical crew? My private chef? My driver? My cleaning team? Where's my whole damn life? But nope, no sports med pros on deck. No Stanford grad trainer. No French chef slinging meals for Olympians. There ain't even basic human stuff. Running water, electricity, Wi-Fi, or a toilet that's not just a pit in the dirt. Welcome to 1238 AD, you crappy medieval warrior. Welcome to the Dark Ages, where there's no NFL, no Super Bowl, no $100 million deals, no modern docks, no hygiene game, and jack shit that makes life worth it. Here, you got a rusty-ass sword, a splintery wooden shield, armor heavier than a compact car, and a lifespan that makes NFL players look like eternal gods. And the absolute worst part, the moldy cherry atop this turd cake? You still gotta train daily. 'Cause even in this total bullshit medieval times, you're technically still a pro athlete. And pro athletes, even ones zapped to the Middle Ages by some sadistic cosmic prank, never quit grinding. Only now, instead of your swanky AC'd gym with German-engineered gear, you're lugging buckets of freezing, filthy water from a worm-riddled community well. Instead of NASA lab protein shakes, you get rock-hard bread that could double as bricks and watery beer that's safer than the local H2O. Instead of padded tackles with FDA-stamped safety pads, you get real-deal sword fights where everybody's legit trying to off you. Congrats, Super Bowl king. You just learned that being a pro athlete in medieval times is just like American football, except every opponent's out to straight-up murder you. No rules apply, no refs in sight, no timeouts, and zero health coverage. The most totally screwed adventure of your whole life is just kicking off, you rookie medieval knight. Before we dive back into this epic medieval saga, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment with your favorite NFL team. And while you're at it, spill the beans if you've ever woken up from a hangover in some bizarre-ass situation. I bet it wasn't as fucked up as waking up in the goddamn Middle Ages. After spending the first 20 minutes of the morning in a full-blown existential crisis, questioning if you're dead, gone insane, or if this is some kind of cosmic prank, pulled off by your teammates, the most brutal reality of all hits you like a safety blitz. You're hungry as fuck. And it's not just any hunger. It's that killer hangover hunger mixed with existential despair, multiplied by 1,000 because your stomach is used to the most expensive and nutritious pro-athlete diet on planet Earth. In your normal life, which now feels like a distant dream, you'd wake up in your 50-grand bed and, before even brushing your teeth with that $300 Philips Sonicare electric toothbrush, you'd text your private chef Pierre Auguste, this arrogant French dude who charged 15 grand a month just to whip up your meals. Bonjour, Monsieur Linebacker, he'd say with that annoying French accent. Today, I've prepared for you organic eggs Benedict with wild Alaskan salmon, whole oat pancakes with blueberries from a biodynamic farm, New Zealand whey protein isolate mixed with artisanal almond milk, and Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee that costs $100 a cup, all served on a silver platter while you were still in bed, chilling with the view of the infinity pool through the panoramic windows of your 1,000-square-foot bedroom. But now you're staring at a rotten wooden table where the following medieval gourmet items are served. A chunk of bread that looks like it was forged by the gods of war themselves. Seriously, this shit is so hard you could use it as a protective helmet. When you knock on it with your knuckles, it makes a thunk-thunk-thunk sound, like solid wood. This bread was probably baked back when Jesus was still a teenager. A bowl of something that technically qualifies as beer, but in practice looks like fermented horse piss. And that's no joke. This is literally the cleanest drink available, because the local water would probably kill you faster than a spear through the chest. A hunk of cheese with a suspicious greenish color, and a smell that would make a skunk hurl. It's moving on its own, which could be because it's alive, or because it's in advanced decomposition. Possibly both. And to top off the dream feast, a soup that seems like it was made with rainwater, some herbs that grew in the graveyard, and chunks of something that could be vegetables, or could be parts from dead animals. Impossible to tell without forensic analysis. What the fuck is this? you ask out loud, grabbing the bread and nearly breaking your fist in the process. A medieval woman appears out of nowhere, probably the local chef, and looks at you with an expression mixing pity, contempt, and embarrassment. She's wearing a dress that looks like it was sewn from used flour sacks, and her teeth, Jesus, her teeth look like misaligned domino tiles. "It's what we have for the first meal, my lord," she says with a bow that would be hilarious if it weren't so tragic. First meal? First meal? In your normal life, you downed 4,500 calories a day, split into 7 scientifically calculated meals by a team of Harvard-educated nutritionists. Each meal was a nutritional masterpiece designed to optimize your athletic performance, speed up muscle recovery, and keep your body fat percentage at exactly 8.5%. Breakfast, 850 calories of high-quality protein, complex carbs, healthy fats, 25 vitamins and minerals, all prepped by a chef who studied at Le Cordon Bleu. Now you're looking at about 200 calories of shit. Literal shit, disguised as food. You grab the bread with both hands and try to take a bite. Bad mistake. Very bad mistake. Your teeth, which used to chew through $200 per pound Japanese Wagyu steaks with ease, nearly shatter on impact. It's like trying to bite into reinforced concrete. "Fuck!" you yell, spitting out bread fragments that could be used as catapult ammo. The medieval woman looks at you scandalized. Apparently, cursing at breakfast isn't standard protocol in the 13th century. You decide to try the medieval beer. After all, liquid should be easier than solid, right? Wrong. Very wrong. You take a swig, and immediately your gag reflex kicks in like an anti-aircraft defense system. The taste is indescribable. Imagine mixing stagnant water, expired yeast, dead fish, and maybe a dash of rat urine. Now imagine that mix fermented in the sun for 3 months. Still doesn't come close to the real taste of this beer. "What the fuck is this?" you scream, spitting it all out onto the dirt floor. "It's weak beer, sir," the woman replies, clearly offended. "It's what everyone drinks." Everyone drinks this shit? Everyone? How the hell has this civilization survived this long? In your normal life, you'd wake up and chug alkaline water imported from the Swiss Alps, filtered 15 times and enriched with balanced electrolytes. Then came the freshly roasted Jamaican coffee, brewed in an 8-grand Italian machine that controlled temperature, pressure, and extraction time with lab-level precision. Now you're drinking something that was probably used to wash pigs last week. You look at the greenish cheese that's still moving on its own. At this point, you're so desperate you're seriously considering eating something that might be alive. You pick up a small piece, sniff it, bad mistake again, and nearly pass out from the aroma. It's like someone blended baby vomit, rotten fish, fermented dung, and maybe some dirty socks worn by a Roman gladiator during the Olympics. "No, no, no," you mutter, tossing the cheese away before it jumps out of your hand and runs off. That leaves the mystery soup. You stare at the brownish-gray liquid with unidentified chunks floating like shipwreck debris. Some chunks seem to move on their own, which isn't exactly a good sign. In your pro-athlete diet, you'd slam smoothies made with organic fruits, top-shelf whey protein isolate, pure creatine, BCAAs, glutamine, and a list of supplements that looked like a university hospital prescription. Each smoothie cost over $50 and had a nutritional profile calculated by NASA computers. Now you're considering slurping a soup that could contain literally anything. Rotten veggies, meat from sketchy animals, rainwater collected in rusty containers, and spices that grew in the local graveyard. You close your eyes, say a prayer to all the American football saints, and take a spoonful of the soup. The result is instant and devastating. Your stomach revolts like you just swallowed sulfuric acid mixed with toxic waste. The taste is a combo of every bad thing in the universe. Sour, bitter, wrong kind of sweet, way too salty, and with a texture like wet sand mixed with expired hair gel. "Arr!" you scream, spitting it all out violently while your eyes water like waterfalls. The medieval woman crosses her arms, clearly annoyed with your lack of gastronomic manners. "My lord doesn't like the food?" she asks in a tone that suggests you just insulted her entire family. Doesn't like? Doesn't like. This isn't food. This is a biological weapon disguised as a meal. You stand there, hungry, thirsty, hungover, lost in time, and now also deeply disgusted by medieval cuisine. Your stomach is rumbling like a V8 engine, but rejecting everything you've tried to put in it. In your normal life, by 8:30 a.m., you'd have consumed more quality nutrition than this entire civilization does in a week. Now, you can't even finish a breakfast without nearly dying from poisoning. And the worst part is, you still have to train today. How the hell are you going to handle medieval physical training without proper fuel in the tank? The answer is, you probably won't. You'll probably pass out, puke, or starve to death before lunch. Welcome to the medieval nutritional system, champ, where breakfast can literally kill you, and that's still considered lucky. Your morning routine just turned into a survival horror game, and you haven't even gotten to the training part yet. After surviving the most traumatic breakfast in the history of humanity, and probably dropping 3 pounds just from cold sweating over what you just tried to eat, it's time to head to the training center. In your real life as a millionaire athlete, this moment was pure pornographic luxury. You'd step out of your mansion, and there was your private driver Marcus, waiting with your armored Mercedes-AMG G63 worth 200 grand, blasting ice-cold AC, heated leather seats, Burmester sound system pumping your Spotify premium playlists, and chilled water with Sicilian lemon slices ready in the cup holder. "Good morning, Mr. Linebacker," Marcus would say with that refined English accent. "Traffic is flowing smoothly on Rodeo Drive today. We'll arrive at the training facility in precisely 23 minutes. You'd lean back in the leather seat that cost more than a standard family car, check your 2.3 million Instagram followers, reply to a few DMs from Victoria's Secret models, and mentally plan how to blow that latest performance bonus. Pure comfort, pure status, pure sweet life. But now, you're staring at your medieval transportation option and seriously questioning if it wouldn't be better to try walking back to the 21st century. At the entrance to the rotten wooden hut that's serving as your temporary home, there's what technically qualifies as a horse tied up. But what a fucking horse! This beast looks like it crawled straight out of a B-grade zombie apocalypse horror flick. It's skinny as a malnourished greyhound, covered in weird patches all over its body, one ear half torn off, probably lost it in a fight with another horse or maybe a medieval bear, and it's eyeing you with an expression that clearly says, "I hate my life just as much as you hate yours." The horse is making a breathing noise that sounds like someone trying to start an old car on a Siberian winter morning. And the smell. Jesus Christ Almighty! The stench coming off this animal would make an industrial landfill blush with shame. "This is your transportation?" you ask the medieval woman, trying to mentally process how the hell you're going to get to the training spot riding a creature that seems to be plotting its own suicide. "Yes, sir," she replies with pride, like she's showing off a Ferrari. "This is Rocinante. He's experienced." Experienced? This horse looks like he fought in the Crusades, lost, and then got drafted as a pack animal to build cathedrals. He's so old he probably knew Jesus' apostles personally. But you don't have a choice. In the medieval era, there's no Uber, no Lyft, no taxis, no buses, no subways, no electric scooters, or any form of transportation that doesn't involve animals with severe psychological issues. You approach the horse cautiously, and it immediately turns its head and gives you that look that says, "Try mounting me, you modern gringo, and I'll toss you into the first mud puddle I find." In your pro-athlete life, you had 5 cars in the garage. The armored Mercedes for every day, the Lamborghini for impressing the ladies, the Ford F-150 Raptor pickup for when you wanted to feel rugged, but still with GPS, AC, and leather seats, the Tesla Model S to show off your eco-conscious side, and a Harley-Davidson for midlife crisis moments, all with full insurance, dealership maintenance, premium fuel, and tires that cost more than the average American salary. Now you're trying to figure out how to mount an animal that clearly has more emotional baggage than you do. How the hell do I mount this thing, you ask, staring at the horse's back that doesn't have a saddle, just a tattered blanket that probably doubled as bedding for an entire peasant family. "My lord has never ridden a horse?" the woman asks, surprised. "Like you've just admitted you don't know how to breathe." "Of course you've never ridden a horse. You're an NFL linebacker, not a 19th century cowboy. Your skills include tackling 220-pound running backs charging at 25 feet not chatting with animals that look like they have clinical depression." "No," you admit, feeling your masculinity plummet faster than Enron stock in 2001. The woman sighs like a kindergarten teacher dealing with an especially difficult child. "Put your left foot in the stirrup, grab the mane, and pull your body up," she explains, like it's the most obvious thing in the world. "Stirrup? What stirrup?" You look at the sides of the horse and see 2 rope loops that seem like they were made by someone who'd never seen a stirrup but heard a vague description of one. You put your left foot in the loop and immediately feel like it's gonna snap and drop you face first onto the ground. But no choice. You grab the mane, which has the texture of steel wool, and try to hoist yourself up. The horse, naturally, chooses exactly that moment to take 2 steps sideways, making you lose your balance completely and nearly break your neck in the process. "Son of a bitch!" you yell, desperately clinging to the mane, while one leg dangles on each side of the animal. The horse turns its head and looks at you with an expression that clearly says, "First time, huh, gringo?" After about 15 minutes of an epic battle between you and Rocinante, which included 3 failed mounting attempts, 2 falls to the ground, a bite on the shoulder from the horse, and a string of curses that would make a sailor blush, you finally manage to balance yourself on top of the animal. But now comes the really terrifying part: making the damn thing move. In your armored Mercedes, you'd press a button, the engine would purr smoothly, and you'd glide through the streets of Beverly Hills like you were floating on a cloud of German luxury. Now you're on top of an animal with a mind of its own, audible digestive problems, and a worrying tendency to stop for grass snacks mid-journey. How do I make him go, you ask, feeling like you're trying to pilot an alien machine. Squeeze your legs against the sides and say, "Hiya," the woman explains. You squeeze your legs and shout, "Hee!" like a cowboy in a Western movie. The horse looks over its shoulder at you with an expression of deep disgust and stays planted exactly where it was. "Hee! Hee! Move, damn it!" you yell, squeezing your legs harder. Rocinante sighs deeply. Yeah, horses can sigh. Who knew? And starts moving at a speed that would make an arthritic turtle look like a Formula One car. And moving is a very generous description for what's happening. It's more like you're mounted on an unbalanced washing machine during the spin cycle. Every step the horse takes bounces you in a different direction, making your teeth chatter and your internal organs rearrange themselves. In your Mercedes, the adaptive air suspension absorbed every road imperfection, keeping you in a perfect bubble of comfort even over speed bumps. Now, every step of the horse feels like taking an uppercut to the gut, while someone shakes you inside a concrete drum. "Fuck!" you scream when Rocinante decides to stop abruptly, to sniff something on the ground, nearly sending you flying over his head. And the worst part? The training center is only about a mile away, but at the pace this horse is going, you'll get there by the next ice age. In your normal life, Marcus handled that commute in a timed 23 minutes, with AC, ambient music, and chats about the luxury real estate market in Malibu. Now you're calculating it'll take you roughly 3 hours to reach the destination, assuming the horse doesn't decide to take a nap or have an existential crisis midway. "This is a nightmare," you mutter, as Rocinante stops again to munch on wildflowers, completely ignoring your desperate kicks to his sides. And you haven't even arrived at the training center yet. Haven't started the medieval physical training. Haven't figured out how the hell you're gonna get back home afterward. Welcome to the public transportation system of the Middle Ages, champ, where your Uber has 4 legs, its own personality, and can decide to ditch you in the middle of the road if it doesn't like your face. Your 4-mile journey just turned into an epic odyssey, and you're starting to understand why medieval people died so young. It wasn't from diseases or wars, it was from stress caused by public transportation. After 2 hours and 37 minutes of pure hell mounted on Rocinante, who decided to stop 14 times to munch on grass, 6 times to take a dump, 3 times to watch birds, and once apparently just to fuck with you, you finally arrive at what the locals proudly call the training center. And what a fucking training center this is! In your life as a millionaire athlete, you trained at the most advanced sports complex in the Western Hemisphere. A modern cathedral of fitness spanning 150,000 square feet of pure German-engineered tech. Treadmills that cost more than houses. Computer-controlled weight machines that automatically adjusted resistance and load based on your DNA, an Olympic-sized heated pool, Finnish sauna, cryosauna, hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and a team of 12 Stanford-educated personal trainers who monitored your every move through sensors linked to your smartphone. What you're seeing now looks like it was ripped straight from a medieval horror movie directed by Quentin Tarantino after an overdose on hallucinogenic mushrooms. It's an open field of packed dirt, surrounded by wooden logs stuck in the ground, where about 20 men are literally killing each other with swords, axes, spears, and other torture devices disguised as training equipment. No air conditioning, no climate-controlled locker room, no soft Ralph Lauren towels, no chilled water with balanced electrolytes, not even a working water fountain. What it does have is mud, sweat, blood, and the signature stench of men who won't discover deodorant for another 600 years. "We've arrived at the training field, my lord," announces a guy who's apparently the medieval equivalent of your $500 an hour personal trainer. But what a personal trainer this is, for fuck's sake! The dude looks like he stepped out of a beer commercial gone horribly wrong. He's 6'3", tall, with muscles clearly built from hauling giant rocks uphill, a beard that could house a family of squirrels, and he's holding a war hammer that weighs more than your full NFL protective gear. "I am Brutus," he says, with a voice that sounds like 2 boulders grinding together. "I will be your combat instructor." Combat instructor? In your normal life, your personal trainer was Dr. James Peterson, PhD in exercise physiology from UCLA, a specialist in sports biomechanics who planned workouts scientifically based on 3D motion analysis and DNA testing to optimize your genetic performance. "Good morning, champion," Dr. Peterson would say with his smooth professor voice. "Today we'll work on quadriceps explosion with Bulgarian split squats, followed by sprint intervals on the anti-gravity treadmill, finishing with percussion muscle therapy and localized cryotherapy. All monitored by computers, with relaxing ambient music, temperature controlled at 70 degrees Celsius, and protein smoothies served between sets. Now you've got Brutus eyeing you like you're a roasted chicken he's seriously considering devouring." "First exercise," Brutus announces, tossing you a wooden shield that must weigh about 45 pounds. "Hold the shield while I try to smash your head with the hammer." What the fuck is this? What kind of exercise is that? In your modern gym, the most dangerous workout was running on a treadmill at 15% incline. "Hold up," you protest, gripping the shield that's making your arms shake. "This isn't training, this is attempted murder." Brutus laughs with a guffaw that would make King Kong seem like a cute kitten. "In real life, the enemy won't call time out, princess," he replies, swinging the hammer like it's a fishing rod. "Now hold that shield and pray to your gods." And wham! The hammer hits the shield with a force that makes a meteor look like child's play. The impact sends you flying 10 feet backward, and you land ass first in the mud, seeing stars that definitely aren't in the sky. "Son of a bitch!" you scream, trying to catch your breath while your entire life flashes before your eyes in slow motion. In your normal life, the most intense exercise was a 440-pound deadlift in a controlled environment, with trained spotters, FDA-approved safety gear, and a sports doctor on standby if anything went wrong. Now you're literally getting beaten by a medieval barbarian with weapons, and this is considered warm-up. "Get up, princess!" Brutus yells, prepping another swing. A Roman gladiator doesn't lie on the ground crying. You stagger to your feet, still holding the shield that's now got a crack the size of the Grand Canyon. Your arms are numb, your legs are shaking, and you're seriously doubting if you'll survive the next 5 minutes. Wham! Second strike. This time you manage to stay upright, but the impact echoes through your bones like a cathedral bell on a Sunday morning. "Better," Brutus approves. "Now we'll train attack. Pick up that sword." He tosses a sword to the ground that looks like it was forged by the demons of hell themselves. The blade is full of notches, probably from all the people who tried to use it and died in the process. The handle is wrapped in leather that smells like dead animal, and it weighs more than your luggage for the Pro Bowl. In your pro athlete life, the most dangerous equipment you handled was a 33-pound medicine ball, and that was with full supervision and protective gear. Now you're holding a genuine lethal weapon that's probably been used to decapitate enemies in real battles. "Now try to hit me," Brutus says casually, like he's asking you to pass the salt at the dinner table. Try to hit you? With a real sword? This isn't sports training. This is gladiator versus gladiator with actual risk of death. You lift the sword with both hands, because one-handed is physically impossible, and try to swing at Brutus. He dodges easily and smacks you in the ribs with the hilt of his own sword, sending you back to the ground like a wet sack of potatoes. "Pathetic," he comments. "My 80-year-old grandmother fights better than you." His 80-year-old grandmother probably spent her whole life fighting off Vikings, Mongols, and other medieval threats. You spent your whole life tackling running backs in a controlled environment with strict safety rules? "Get up," Brutus orders. "Next exercise, carrying rocks." He points to a pile of boulders that look like they were imported straight from Mount Everest. Each rock must weigh between 110 and 220 pounds, and you have to carry them from one side of the field to the other. In your modern gym, you did functional training with 70-pound kettlebells, which was considered heavy for functional exercises. And that was in a climate-controlled space, with non-slip rubber flooring and water breaks every 15 minutes. Now you have to haul rocks heavier than you are, across a muddy field under the scorching sun, while other medieval warriors do the same thing and occasionally attack each other just for fun. You grab the first rock and immediately feel like every muscle in your body is being stretched on a medieval torture rack. Your quads are burning, your back is screaming in pain, and your arms are trembling like leaves in a gale. You manage exactly 3 steps before collapsing to the ground with the rock, which nearly crushes your right foot in the process. "Fuck!" you yell, writhing in the mud. "First time?" asks another medieval warrior, walking past you carrying 2 rocks at once like they were pillows. First time? Of course it's the first time. In your normal life, the heaviest thing you carried was your Louis Vuitton suitcase at the private airport. "Breathe deep and use your legs," the guy advises friendly-like before continuing his exercise as if nothing happened. "Use your legs? Use your legs?" Your legs are already being used to their absolute max, just to keep you standing. But there's no way out. You get up, grab another rock, smaller this time, about the size of a microwave, and try staggering across the field like a drunk in a storm. Every step is agony. The medieval sun is pounding on your head like a hammer, sweat is streaming into your eyes, mixed with tears of despair, and you're starting to seriously question your life choices. In your air-conditioned gym, you had personal trainers encouraging you, motivational music playing, clean towels waiting, and ice-cold Gatorade for immediate hydration. Here you've got Brutus yelling, "Move that ass, princess! My 12-year-old daughter carries bigger rocks than that." His 12-year-old daughter was probably born carrying rocks and fighting off medieval bears. After 40 minutes of medieval torture, disguised as functional training, you're lying in the mud, gasping like a fish out of water, covered in sweat, blood, and tears, questioning how the hell medieval warriors survived past 30. "Good warm-up," Brutus announces cheerfully. "Now, let's start the real training." Warm-up? That was warm-up? In your normal life, warm-up was 10 minutes of light, walking on the treadmill followed by dynamic stretching with a physiotherapist's help. This here was attempted murder followed by forced labor. "Next exercise," Brutus continues, completely ignoring your vegetative state. "Real combat. You versus Olaf." He points to a Nordic giant who looks like he stepped straight out of Viking mythology. The guy's 6'11", tall, with muscles sculpted by the gods of war themselves, and a facial expression that suggests he eats NFL linebackers for breakfast. "Fight until one of you passes out or dies," Brutus announces casually. Passes out or dies? In the NFL, the worst that could happen was a concussion, which led to immediate medical care and mandatory time off. Here, the worst that can happen is literal death, which leads to, well, death. You're standing there, still drooling in the mud, when the Nordic giant Olaf approaches with a smile that would make a great white shark look like a friendly golden retriever. The guy isn't just big, he's geographically huge. It looks like someone took a polar bear, taught it to walk on 2 legs, pumped it full of steroids for 20 years, and then said, "Now go out there and kill some Americans." See, in your normal life as a pro athlete, your sparring partners were controlled teammates, training in a supervised environment with strict safety rules. When you did tackle drills, there was a ref, an on-call doctor, NASA-approved protective gear, And if anyone got hurt, everything stopped immediately for medical care. Here, your sparring partner looks like he woke up today thinking, "What a beautiful day for committing homicide." "I am Olaf," the Nordic giant announces, with a voice that sounds like an avalanche in slow motion. "I have killed 47 men in combat." 47 men. In the NFL, your most impressive stat was 127 tackles in a season. This guy's resume has 47 homicides. "Cool," you reply with a trembling voice, trying to mentally process how the hell you're gonna survive the next 5 minutes. I had 127 tackles last year." Olaf looks at you confused. "What is tackle?" he asks, twirling a war axe that weighs more than your Harley-Davidson motorcycle. How do you explain tackle to a guy who only knows kill or not kill? In the NFL, tackle is a refined technique for taking down an opponent in a controlled way, minimizing risks of serious injury. In Olaf's world, apparently there's only decapitate, or crush skull with axe. It's like knocking the person down without killing them, you try to explain. Olaf laughs, like you've just told the funniest joke in medieval history. "Knock down without killing?" he guffaws. "Why would anyone do that? Where's the fun?" The fun? The fun was in your normal life, where you got paid $12 million a year to play a sport with rules, refs, doctors, and zero chance of death by decapitation. "Combat begins now," Brutus yells, apparently eager to kick off what will probably be your obituary. In your life as a pro athlete, before any intense physical activity, you'd do 20 minutes of specific warm-up, dynamic stretching supervised by a physiotherapist, scientifically calculated hydration, and a full check of all safety equipment. Now you're holding a rusty sword, without any warm-up, dehydrated, on a forced fast, wearing armor that looks like it was made from old pots tied together with string, about to face a psychotic Nordic giant in mortal combat. Olaf charges like a runaway train, swinging the axe in a trajectory clearly aimed at separating your head from the rest of your body. You dive to the side at the last second, rolling in the mud like a trash bag thrown from an apartment window. "Fuck!" you scream, trying to get up while Olaf laughs like a demonic hyena. "Good dodge," Brutus comments from the sidelines. "Now try attacking." Try attacking? Try attacking a guy who's killed 47 people? This isn't sparring. This is assisted suicide. But no choice. You lift the sword, which still weighs more than a full set of golf clubs, and attempt a pathetic swing at Olaf. He dodges easily, grabs you by the neck with a hand the size of a frying pan, and lifts you off the ground like you're a stuffed animal. "You are weak as newborn baby," he observes scientifically, shaking you in the air. In my land, babies fight better. The babies in his land probably come out of the womb already wielding war axes and beards. Olaf tosses you to the ground with enough force to create a crater in the dirt. You land on your back, seeing little birds that definitely aren't part of the local wildlife, while he preps the finishing blow. "Time out!" you yell desperately, raising your hand like an NFL ref. Everyone stops and stares at you like you've just spoken in an alien language. "What is timeout?" Olaf asks, genuinely confused. How do you explain the concept of timeout to medieval warriors? In the NFL, timeout is a strategic pause to regroup plays, rest, or stop the clock. In the 13th century, apparently, the only possible pause is death. It's like a stop to rest? You try to explain, still lying in the mud. Brutus laughs like you've just asked to pause a war. In real combat, the enemy won't give you time out, princess, he explains patiently. The enemy will try to kill you while you're asking for time out. But this is just training, you protest. Training is real combat, Brutus replies. How will you learn to survive if you're not actually trying to survive? This medieval logic is making your head hurt more than the impact of the axe. In your normal life, training was a controlled simulation of the real situation. Here, training is the real situation, just with a tiny bit less deadly consequences. A tiny bit less. Olaf pulls you up again, this time grabbing you by your improvised armor. Now I will teach you my family's secret technique, he announces with worrying enthusiasm. Secret technique? In the NFL, secret techniques were special plays the coach saved for crucial moments. In Olaf's family, secret techniques probably involve creative ways to dismember enemies. It's called enraged bear, he explains, prepping a move that seems to involve spinning you in the air like a helicopter propeller. No, you scream. I surrender. I surrender. 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 You've never surrendered in your life. You're a Super Bowl champ. You're the most feared linebacker in the NFL. You don't surrender to anyone. But you've also never faced a psychotic Nordic giant who collects human skulls as a hobby. Surrender? Olaf seems not to understand the concept. What is surrender? Jesus Christ. They don't even have a concept of surrender. In the NFL, when you were getting completely dominated, at least you could leave the field and wait for the next down. Here there's no next down, just alive or dead. It's like stopping the fight, you explain quickly, before he continues with the enraged bear technique. Stop fighting only when dead, Olaf replies logically. Of course, makes total sense. Why didn't you think of that? In medieval logic, fights only end with death. How simple and practical. But I don't want to die, you yell in desperation. No one does, Olaf replies philosophically. But everyone dies. It's natural process. This guy should write self-help books. Accepting death. A Viking perspective on mortality. Brutus approaches, apparently satisfied with the progress of your training. Good work, Olaf, he praises. The American learned a lot today. What did I learn? I learned that medieval warriors are completely insane, that there's no concept of safe training in the 13th century, and that I'd rather face the entire defensive line of the Baltimore Ravens than spend another 5 minutes with these psychopaths. Now, Brutus announces cheerfully, let's train with ranged weapons. Olaf, get the bow. A bow? Ranged weapons? In the NFL, the most dangerous thing coming from a distance was a long pass from the quarterback. Now you're going to serve as a target for a Viking archer who probably hits flies at 100 yards. Olaf grabs a bow the size of a giant fishing rod and an arrow that looks like it was designed to pierce war tanks. I'll stand 50 yards away, he announces casually. You run in zigzag, trying not to die. Trying not to die? This isn't an agility exercise. This is Russian roulette with bow and arrow. In your normal life, agility training was cone drills on synthetic turf, with electronic timing and a physiotherapist watching every move to prevent injuries. Now it's run so you don't become a human shish kebab. Ready? Olaf yells from the distance, aiming the arrow straight at your chest. No, not ready. Never gonna be ready. No one's ready to be used as target practice. But Olaf has already fired the first arrow, which whistles past inches from your right ear and embeds itself in a tree behind you with enough force to go through a car. Son of a bitch, you scream, starting to run in a zigzag like a crazy chicken fleeing a farmer. Whoosh! Second arrow, passing between your legs and nearly turning you into a soprano. Better, Brutus yells. Now you're starting to move like a warrior. Of course you're moving like a warrior. When someone's trying to kill you with medieval weapons, you discover muscles you didn't even know existed. Whoosh! Third arrow, grazing your shoulder and ripping off a piece of your improvised armor. You're running faster than any 40-yard dash you've ever done in your life, motivated by the most primal instinct of all. Don't die impaled by pointy wood. In the NFL, your best 40-yard time was 4.6 seconds. Now, you're covering 40 yards in about 3.2 seconds, because apparently fear of death is the best performance enhancer out there. Enough! You scream after 10 minutes of running like a gazelle chased by a lion. I can't take any more. You collapse to the ground, gasping like a fish out of water, completely exhausted, covered in sweat, mud, and tears of despair. Excellent training, Brutus announces, satisfied. Tomorrow, we'll train with the catapult. Catapult? Catapult? In your normal life, the most explosive thing in training was medicine ball slams. Now you're gonna train dodging medieval artillery projectiles? Now, let's have lunch, Brutus continues cheerfully, ignoring your nervous breakdown. I hope you like entrail soup. Entrail soup? In your pro-athlete diet, lunch was grilled salmon with quinoa, organic salad, and a protein smoothie. Welcome to the medieval training program, champ, where your survival rate is the most important stat over your athletic performance. And you haven't even gotten to the afternoon part yet. After miraculously surviving the bow and arrow training, where you discovered you have ninja reflexes when motivated by pure terror, it's time for the sacred hour of lunch. And when I say sacred, I mean in the biblical sense, because you're gonna need all the divine help possible to survive what these medieval psychopaths call a nutritious meal. In your life as a millionaire athlete, lunch was a gastronomic experience from another world. You'd arrive at the training center's dining hall, which looked more like a five-star restaurant than a sports cafeteria, and find a table with white linen cloths, fine porcelain plates, and your personal nutritionist, Dr. Marcus Williams, waiting with a smile that cost $300 per consultation. Good afternoon, champion, Dr. Williams would say, adjusting his designer glasses. Today, we've prepared wild Alaskan salmon grilled with a fine herb crust, organic tricolor quinoa sautéed in extra virgin Tuscan olive oil, hydroponically grown baby asparagus, a arugula salad with cherry tomatoes, and a 12-year-aged balsamic vinaigrette, and to finish, a protein smoothie with isolated whey, antioxidant-rich berries, and micronized creatine. All served in mathematically calculated portions to provide exactly 1,247 calories, with the perfect macronutrient ratio: 45% complex carbs, 35% high biological value proteins, and 20% essential unsaturated fats. And to drink? Alkaline water imported from Swiss glaciers, filtered 17 times, enriched with balanced electrolytes, and served at the perfect temperature of 30-39 Curie. Scharf in Austrian crystal glasses. Pure luxury gastronomy, scientifically calculated to optimize your athletic performance and muscle recovery. Now you're sitting at a wooden table that probably doubled as a chopping block for beheadings, staring at what Brutus proudly presents as a warrior's feast. Fresh entrail soup, he announces cheerfully, placing in front of you a cracked clay bowl containing a brownish-gray liquid that's moving on its own. Fresh entrail soup. In your pro-athlete diet, the most exotic thing you ate was bluefin tuna sushi imported from Japan. Now you're looking at a soup made literally from the internal organs of animals that probably died from questionable causes. What kind of entrails? You ask, with a morbid curiosity that you immediately regret having. Pig, cow, goat, and some other things we found along the road. Brutus replies casually, like he's describing ingredients for a Caesar salad. Some other things they found along the road? This isn't a culinary recipe. This is roadkill collection disguised as gastronomy. You stir the soup with a wooden spoon that looks like it was carved with a blunt axe, and immediately spot chunks floating that definitely shouldn't be in any food consumed by civilized humans. There's something that looks like a kidney of dubious shape, something that could be liver or could be a piece of shoe sole, something tubular that you prefer not to identify, and several round gelatinous things that move when you poke them. Is this alive, you ask, pointing to a piece that definitely just twitched. Sometimes, Brutus replies philosophically, depends on how fresh it was when we cooked it. How fresh it was? In your normal life, fresh meant the salmon was caught in the last 24 hours and transported on dry ice to preserve quality and flavor. Here, fresh apparently means not completely rotted yet. You bring the spoon closer to your mouth, and the smell hits you like a punch to the gut. It's a combination of every bad thing in the universe. Fermented dung, dead fish left in the sun, sour vomit, and maybe a subtle touch of decomposing corpse. Jesus Christ, you scream, pushing the bowl away before the smell kills you by inhalation. Don't like the seasoning? Brutus asks, genuinely concerned. I can ask the cook to add more salt. More salt? The problem isn't lack of salt. The problem is that this shouldn't be consumed by any form of life known to science. In your pro-athlete diet, every meal went through rigorous quality control. Certified chef, organic ingredients, preparation in a kitchen with hospital-grade cleanliness standards, and computerized nutritional analysis. This soup looks like it was prepared in a cauldron that was used for melting metal, with ingredients scavenged from the local dump, by a cook who thinks hygiene is the name of a Greek princess. Eat up, Brutus insists, or it'll get cold and taste bad. Get cold and taste bad? How the hell can this get worse? It's already violating several laws of physics and biology simultaneously. But you're hungry. A desperate killer hunger that's making your stomach gnaw on its own walls. You haven't eaten anything decent since you were teleported to this shitty medieval era, and your body is starting to go into survival mode. You close your eyes, say a prayer to all the American football saints, and take a small spoonful of the infernal soup. The result is immediate and devastating. Your taste receptors go into full panic mode, sending red alert signals to your brain. Abort mission. Abort mission. This is not food. The taste is indescribable. Imagine mixing rotten meat, sewage water, expired medicine, and maybe a bit of old gasoline. Now imagine that mix fermented in a latrine for 6 months. Still doesn't come close to the real taste of this culinary abomination. Arg! You spit it all out violently, while your eyes water like Niagara Falls. Too strong? Brutus asks, observing your reaction like a scientist studying a lab rat. Too strong? This isn't strong. This is a chemical weapon disguised as nourishment. Maybe you'd prefer something milder, he suggests, pushing toward you a plate with what appears to be meat. You look at the meat and immediately spot several gastronomic red flags. First, the color is wrong. It's not the brown of cooked meat. It's more of a greenish gray that suggests advanced decomposition. Second, it has a texture like vulcanized rubber. Third, it's moving. It's moving on its own. What kind of meat is this, you ask, with a trembling voice from someone who already knows they don't want to hear the answer. We're not sure, Brutus admits honestly. We found the animal already dead in the forest yesterday. Could be wild boar, could be wolf, could be something else. Something else? What the fuck kind of something else? In your normal life, you knew exactly where every gram of protein you consumed came from. Certified farms, organic raising, humane slaughter, refrigerated transport, and full traceability from field to plate. Now you're eating mystery meat that was found dead in the forest for unknown reasons. You grab a fork, which is more like a pointy wooden stick, and poke the meat. It's so tough it makes a metallic noise, like clink, clink, clink. You need to chew well, Brutus advises. Otherwise, it might break a tooth. Break a tooth? Food shouldn't be capable of breaking teeth. Food should be soft, flavorful, and nutritious. Not a dental combat experience. In your life as a pro athlete, the toughest steak you ate was Japanese Wagyu rare, which melted in your mouth like heavenly butter. Now, you're trying to chew something that could probably be used as protective gear. You manage to tear off a small piece of the meat after 5 minutes of an epic battle between your teeth and the substance that technically qualifies as food. The chewing process takes another 10 minutes, and it sounds like someone trying to grind rocks in a jackhammer. The taste. God almighty. The taste. It's like chewing on a truck tire seasoned with used motor oil, with a subtle hint of dead rat. Good, Brutus asks enthusiastically. Delicious, you lie blatantly, trying not to puke while still chewing. Lying about medieval food is a matter of survival. If you show too much displeasure, they might decide to improve the meal by adding even more questionable ingredients. Great, Brutus celebrates. Now try the special drink. He places in front of you a clay mug containing a liquid that looks like it was collected from a puddle after a storm. The color is a suspicious yellowish brown. There are solid bits floating in it, and it's foaming on its own. What is this, you ask, already knowing you'll regret the answer. Strong beer, Brutus replies proudly. Fermented for 3 weeks in a barrel we used to store fish last year. Fermented in a fish barrel? In your normal life, you drank water as pure as an angel's tear, and occasionally a Gatorade scientifically formulated for electrolyte replacement. Now you're looking at a drink that was fermented in a container that probably still has scales stuck to the walls. You sniff the beer and nearly pass out. The aroma is a combination of rotten fish, homemade alcohol, and maybe a touch of formaldehyde. It's tradition to drink it all in one go, Brutus explains, watching expectantly. Tradition? The only tradition you want to follow right now is the tradition of staying alive by the end of the day. But no choice. You're surrounded by medieval warriors who kill people for fun. Refusing the traditional drink might be seen as a cultural insult, punishable by beheading. You grip the mug, say one last prayer, and down it all in one go like a tequila shot. The result is apocalyptic. Your digestive system goes into full rebellion. Your liver sends a resignation letter. Your kidneys declare independence. And your stomach starts plotting revenge. The liquid burns down your throat like sulfuric acid mixed with hand sanitizer. The taste is so bad, you literally don't have words to describe it. It's like all the bad flavors in the universe teamed up to create the most traumatic, gustatory experience possible. Ah! You scream, while tears stream down your face, and your tongue tries to escape your mouth. First time drinking real beer? Brutus asks, patting your back while you cough like a tuberculosis patient. Real beer? In your normal life, the strongest drink you consumed was organic red wine at $200 a bottle during the off-season. And that in moderation, always paired with fine cheeses and select fruits. This here isn't beer. This is rocket fuel disguised as an alcoholic beverage. You sit there, trying to recover the ability to breathe, swallow, and exist, while the medieval warriors around you comment on your eating performance like it's entertainment. "American eats like a little bird," observes a bearded guy. "It's always like this in the first week," another replies philosophically. "Either adapt or die. Adapt or die." That shouldn't be the philosophy behind a nutritional program. Nutrition should optimize performance, not test survival limits. In your life as a pro athlete, every meal was designed to fuel a high-performance human machine. Now, every meal is a survival adventure, and you're starting to understand why life expectancy in the Middle Ages was 35 years. And you still have to train in the afternoon with this digestive bomb breaking down in your stomach. After miraculously surviving the most traumatic lunch in the history of world gastronomy, and probably losing 5 years off your life expectancy just from processing that biological bomb the medieval folks call a nutritious meal, it's time for the sacred post-lunch rest period. In your life as a millionaire athlete, this was the most zen moment of the day. You'd head back to your climate-controlled master suite, lie down on your 50-grand orthopedic bed, cue up your relaxing playlist on the Bose sound system that cost more than a car, and nap for exactly 47 minutes. Time scientifically calculated by Harvard sleep specialists to optimize muscle recovery without messing with your circadian rhythm. Your suite was a temple of comfort. Air conditioning religiously maintained at 70°, humidity controlled at 45%, automatic blackout curtains that blocked 99.9% of sunlight, a mattress with electronic firmness adjustment, memory foam pillows that molded perfectly to the shape of your millionaire head. And the silence. Ah, the divine silence. Professional soundproofing that blocked any noise from the outside world. The most you'd hear was the soft whisper of the premium ventilation system, and occasionally the discreet sound of your Brazilian butler polishing your trophies downstairs. Now you're staring at your medieval restroom and questioning if it wouldn't be more comfortable to sleep in a cardboard box under a Detroit overpass. It's a hut that makes your old college dorm look like the Ritz-Carlton's presidential suite. The walls are rotten wood, with more holes than Swiss cheese. The ceiling has leaks strategically positioned to drip right on your head. And the floor is packed dirt that's probably been trampled by generations of peasants with hygiene issues. Your bed is technically a pile of straw covered with a blanket that was once brown, but is now an indefinable color, mixing all the bodily fluids known to humanity. The pillow is a cloth sack stuffed with grass that smells suspiciously like goat dung mixed with dead fish. "What the fuck is this?" you mutter, looking at the bed that seems like a textile train wreck. But the worst is yet to come. Because you're not alone in this medieval horror room. You have roommates. Several roommates. And they don't pay rent. Squeak! 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 Rats. An entire family of rats that apparently decided your bed is the perfect spot to raise their pups. They look at you with that rodent expression that clearly says, "This is our territory, modern gringo." You adapt. In your normal life, the only animal you'd see in your room was occasionally a spider that the cleaning service eliminated immediately. Your rooms were disinfected weekly by a team specialized in hospital-grade hygiene, with products that cost more than a monthly minimum wage. Now you're sharing space with a colony of rodents that probably carry more diseases than a medieval hospital. "Get out of here!" you yell, trying to scare off the rats. They look at you with absolute contempt and continue doing whatever rats do when they're judging inferior humans. One of them even yawns, like your presence is more boring than a medieval history lesson. You try to lie down on the bed pile of straw and immediately discover that comfortable is a concept that doesn't exist in the 13th century. It's like trying to sleep on a stack of twigs covered in sandpaper. Every movement produces noises like crunch, 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 and releases a cloud of dust that would make you sneeze all the way to 2025. But it's not just physical discomfort. Oh no, that would be way too simple if it were just that. There are the sounds. In your master suite, the max noise you'd hear was the soft whisper of the high-tech air conditioner. Now you've got a full medieval symphony playing live in your room. Squeak! Squeak! The rats discussing rodent politics. Drip! 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 The leaks keeping a constant rhythm like an infernal metronome. Creak! Creak! The whole hut groaning and swaying with every gust of wind. Snort! Snort! Some unidentified animal making digestive noises outside. And last, but definitely not least, roar! Puff! Brutus snoring and farting simultaneously in the hut next door, creating a symphony of bodily sounds that violate several Geneva Conventions on acoustic torture. Fuck! You scream, trying to cover your ears with your hands. But it doesn't work. The noise penetrates any defense you try to mount. It's like the medieval universe conspired to create the most annoying soundtrack possible for your recovery attempt. In your life as a pro athlete, any sleep disturbance was treated like a medical emergency. You had sleep specialists, ambient noise control, and, if needed, an immediate hotel change. Proper sleep was treated as an essential component of athletic performance. Now you're trying to sleep to a soundtrack that would include rejected noises from a B-grade horror movie. You finally manage to doze off for about 12 minutes when you're woken by the most disturbing noise you've ever heard in your life. Cluck, cluck, cluck. A chicken. A completely crazy chicken decided to enter your room and make a nest right next to your head. What the fuck are you doing here? You scream at the chicken, which looks at you with that avian expression that clearly says, "This is my room too, inadequate biped." In your normal life, the only bird you'd see was occasionally a cardinal in your mansion's garden, observed through 3-inch-thick soundproof windows. Now you've got a chicken using your straw as a maternity ward. You try to scare off the chicken, which responds by attacking your fingers with that sharp beak like a tiny sword. Apparently, medieval chickens are more aggressive than linebackers from the AFC North Division. "Ow! You son of a bitch!" you yell, pulling your hand back while the chicken celebrates its victory by making even more noise. After 20 minutes of war against poultry, you finally manage to evict the chicken, which leaves making that indignant noise chickens make when they're unjustly removed from property they consider theirs. You lie down again, trying to find a position that doesn't result in immediate pain. This involves twisting your body into angles that defy basic human anatomy, because apparently medieval beds were designed by people who hated spine alignment. Just when you're almost managing to relax, you discover the next horror: the bugs. Not modern, clean, discreet bugs. These are medieval bugs, big, nasty, and apparently very hungry for football player blood. Something is crawling up your leg. Something else is biting your neck. And you have a strong suspicion that several creatures are using your hair as a highway system. "No!" you scream, jumping out of the bed and trying to brush off whatever ecosystem decided to colonize your body. In your normal life, pest control was handled by professionals with scientific equipment and EPA-approved products. Your homes were treated quarterly by experts who guaranteed zero insect presence. Now, you are the pest control, fighting hand-to-hand combat against medieval arthropods that probably carry diseases modern science doesn't even know about. You spend the next 15 minutes doing what can only be described as a bug dance, jumping, slapping, scratching, and generally looking like a person having a nervous breakdown. The rats watch this spectacle with what appears to be amusement. One of them even seems to be applauding with its tiny paws. "This isn't funny," you yell at the rats, which obviously don't speak English but clearly understand sarcasm. Finally, after eliminating most of the bugs, you hope, you attempt to lie down again. But now you're paranoid about every sensation, every little itch, every tiny movement of air. Every microscopic disturbance makes you think something is crawling on you. In your life as an athlete, recovery time was sacred. It was time for your body to repair, rebuild, and prepare for the next workout. It was a scientific process of cellular regeneration optimized through environment control. Now, recovery time is a survival horror experience where you fight small animals for territory. You close your eyes, try to ignore the symphony of medieval noises, the uncomfortable bed, the suspicious smells, and the general feeling that everything in this room wants to either eat you or give you medieval diseases. Just as you finally start to drift off, you hear the most terrifying sound yet. "Afternoon! Training in 10 minutes!" Brutus bellows from outside. Afternoon. Training? You barely survived morning training. You can't even survive nap time. How the hell are you going to survive the afternoon session? You sit up, feeling like you got hit by a medieval truck. Your recovery session left you more tired than when you started. Your muscles are sore from fighting unusual sleeping positions. Your nerves are shot from constant battle against small creatures. And your sanity is questionable after arguing with chickens and rats. In your normal life, a 47-minute power nap left you refreshed, energized, and ready for the afternoon workout. You'd emerge from your climate-controlled sanctuary feeling like a million-dollar athlete ready to dominate. Now you emerge from medieval hell feeling like a zombie who lost a fight against barnyard animals. "Coming!" you yell back to Brutus, wondering if it's possible to die from exhaustion before afternoon training even starts. You look around your room one last time. The rats wave goodbye with their tiny paws. The chicken has returned and is eyeing your pillow possessively. The bugs are probably planning revenge for your earlier assault. "Fuck this medieval bullshit," you mumble, stumbling toward the door. Welcome to Medieval Recovery Protocols, champ, where rest time is more challenging than actual training, and your roommates don't pay rent, but definitely don't respect personal space. And you still have afternoon training, dinner, and evening entertainment to survive. Good luck surviving your own nap time, medieval warrior. After surviving the lunch from hell and spending minutes vomiting discreetly behind the hut while pretending to be admiring the medieval scenery, it's time for the afternoon tactical training. And when I say tactical, it's not that cute little tactical session you did in the NFL with diagrams on a whiteboard and a digitized playbook on your iPad Pro. In your life as a millionaire athlete, tactical training was pure intellectual sophistication. You'd gather in the climate-controlled video room at the training center, which had leather armchairs more comfortable than Emirates First Class, with your teammates watching replays on a 4K Ultra HD IMAX screen, analyzing every move frame by frame with slow-motion tech that cost more than a Manhattan apartment. "Gentlemen," the coach would say, with his professorial voice, pointing to tactical formations projected in 3D holography, "today, we're studying the opponent's defensive scheme. Observe how their middle linebacker positions on the snap count. Our strategy will be to exploit that weakness through quick slants and screen passes calculated precisely, all accompanied by computerized statistical graphs, biomechanical motion analysis, probabilities calculated by artificial intelligence, and a coffee break with artisanal cookies served by assistants who earned more than university professors. You'd sit there relaxed, taking notes on your customized iPad, discussing tactical nuances like a Harvard professor, analyzing Shakespeare, planning plays like a general coordinating a precision military operation, pure applied sports science with cutting-edge technology. Now you're standing on a field of packed dirt, surrounded by medieval warriors who seem to have learned tactics by watching gladiators slaughter each other in the Colosseum, while Brutus draws formations in the mud with a pointy stick. "Attention, warriors!" Brutus yells like a deranged military sergeant. Today we're learning the traditional battle formation, shield wall. Shield wall? In the NFL, formations had sophisticated names like 3-4 defense with nickel package, or spread offense with RPO integration. Here the tactic boils down to stand still and pray not to die. Formation very simple, Brutus explains, drawing circles in the mud. Everyone stands in a line, raises shields, and tries not to die when enemies attack with spears, arrows, boiling oil, and catapults. Boiling oil and catapults? In your NFL tactical sessions, the most violence you'd plan was how to tackle without targeting the head. Here they're literally planning how to survive medieval weapons of mass destruction. But what's the strategic analysis, you ask, trying to apply modern sports logic? What's the game plan against different offensive formations from the enemy? Everyone looks at you like you've just spoken in ancient Mandarin. Strategic. What? Brutus asks, scratching his head with genuine confusion. How do you explain the concept of strategic analysis to warriors who think tactics are hit hard and hope the other guy dies first? In the NFL, you had 200 pages of playbook detailing every possible scenario. What to do against run formations, pass formations, trick plays, 2-minute drills, red zone situations, goal line stands, and approximately 47 different audibles to adjust at the line of scrimmage. Here the entire playbook apparently consists of point sword at enemy, push hard. If enemy doesn't die, push harder. Simple, Olaf interjects with his Nordic wisdom. Enemy comes, we kill enemy. Enemy doesn't come, we go after and kill anyway. That's literally the complete strategic philosophy. No game planning, no situational awareness, no contingency strategies. Just kill or be killed in its purest, most primitive form. But what if the enemy uses a different formation? You insist, trying to introduce the concept of adaptability. Different formation? Brutus repeats, genuinely puzzled. Enemy only has one formation. Try to kill you. You only have one response. Kill first. Jesus Christ! It's like they've reduced all the complexities of strategic warfare to rock, paper, scissors. But without paper and scissors, just rock smashing into rock until someone breaks. Now, let's practice, Brutus announces, handing out shields that weigh about 65 pounds each. Form the battle line. In your life as a pro athlete, when you practiced formations, it was with colored cones on synthetic turf, perfectly timed movements, and if someone messed up the positioning, you just ran the play again. Now you're holding a shield that weighs more than the weight vest you used in training camps, trying to line up with warriors who smell like they've been rolling in horse dung. Shields up, Brutus commands. Enemies attacking. Enemies attacking? You look around expecting to see practice dummies or training equipment. But no. These are real warriors with real weapons coming at you with clear intent to cause bodily harm. Wait! You scream. This is just practice, right? Practice is with real enemies, Brutus explains patiently, like he's teaching kindergarten. How will you learn to fight if you're not actually fighting? This medieval logic is frying your brain. In the NFL, practice was a simulation of the real situation, but with safety protocols, protective equipment, and medical staff standing by. Here, practice is the real situation, just with slightly less chance of actual death. Slightly. Clang! The first spear hits your shield with a force that nearly dislocates your shoulder. The impact reverberates through your bones like a church bell being struck by lightning. "Holy shit!" you scream, stumbling backward and nearly dropping the shield. "Hold position!" Brutus yells. "If you break formation, the whole line collapses." The whole line collapses. In the NFL, if you missed your assignment, the worst-case scenario was a touchdown for the opponent. Here, if you mess up, everybody dies horribly. Clang! 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 More attacks coming, each hit making you feel like you're being struck by a sledgehammer operated by a psychotic giant. Your arms are burning, your legs shaking, and you're starting to understand why medieval battles only lasted a few hours. Nobody could physically sustain this level of brutal punishment for very long. "Incoming arrows!" somebody yells. Incoming arrows? In the NFL, incoming passes were carefully thrown by a professional quarterback, aiming for receivers' hands. Incoming arrows are deadly projectiles aiming for your vital organs. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Arrows embedding themselves in your shield like oversized thumbtacks being shot from a cannon. "Keep shields up!" Brutus continues shouting instructions as if you weren't literally being used as target practice. Now, advance forward. Advance forward? While being shot at? In your tactical training, advancing meant moving up the field in a coordinated fashion with teammates providing support and protection. Here, advancing means walking toward people who are actively trying to kill you while hoping your wooden shield doesn't break and leave you exposed to medieval weapons designed to cause maximum carnage. You take one step forward, then another, feeling like a walking target in a shooting gallery run by sadistic medieval psychopaths. "Charge!" Brutus suddenly screams. Charge! Nobody mentioned anything about charging. In the NFL playbook, every movement was precisely planned and choreographed. Nobody just randomly decided to charge without proper preparation and strategic consideration. But apparently, in medieval warfare, charge is just something that happens when somebody feels like it. All around you, warriors start running toward the enemy lines, screaming like lunatics, waving swords and axes above their heads in a display of berserker fury that would make horror movie directors take notes. "Charge!" Olaf yells, running past you carrying 2 battle axes and laughing like a maniac. "What the fuck am I supposed to do?" you scream, but nobody answers because everybody is too busy trying to kill each other. So you do what any rational person would do in a completely irrational situation. You run forward screaming like an idiot, hoping that momentum and adrenaline will somehow substitute for actual combat training. Clash! The 2 lines of warriors collide like freight trains having a head-on collision. The sound is indescribable. Metal hitting metal, wood splintering, men screaming, and the occasional wet sound that you really don't want to identify. Suddenly, you find yourself in the middle of a medieval mosh pit, but instead of drunk college students, you're surrounded by armed warriors actively trying to cause physical harm. Swing! A sword passes inches from your face. Thud! An axe embeds itself in your shield, getting stuck there and adding approximately 10 pounds to the weight you're already carrying. "Help!" you scream, but your voice is lost in the cacophony of battle sounds. This isn't tactical training. This is full-contact medieval combat with real weapons and a real possibility of real death. In the NFL, the worst injury you could get during practice was a torn ACL, which would result in surgery, rehabilitation, and a return to play next season. Here, the worst injury you can get is decapitation, which results in, well, death. Permanent death. "Fight back!" Brutus yells from somewhere in the chaos. "Stop cowering and start attacking!" Fight back? With what? You barely know how to hold medieval weapons, much less use them effectively against people who've been doing this since childhood. But you try anyway, swinging your sword in a clumsy arc that misses everything and nearly takes off your own leg in the process. "Pathetic!" somebody shouts. Yes, it's pathetic. You admit it. You're an NFL linebacker, not a medieval warrior. Your training consisted of weight rooms and playbooks, not swords and survival combat. After what feels like an eternity, but probably only lasted 10 minutes, Brutus finally calls a halt to this organized chaos. "Enough!" he bellows, and somehow everybody stops trying to kill each other and returns to civilized behavior like nothing happened. You collapse on the ground, breathing like an asthmatic marathon runner, covered in mud, sweat, and tears of pure terror. Good first tactical session, Brutus evaluates, looking down at your pathetic form. Tomorrow, we'll practice siege warfare. Siege warfare? Tomorrow. In your NFL career, the most intense practice sessions were followed by ice baths, massage therapy, and gourmet recovery meals. Tomorrow you get to practice having your castle attacked by catapults, battering rams, and probably dragons, for all you know. "Can I opt out?" you ask desperately. Opt out? Brutus looks confused. Out of what? Out of this. All of this. Medieval warfare training. Opt out of life? Olaf asks, joining the conversation. Only way to opt out of warrior life is death. Of course. Medieval times don't have transfer requests, trade demands, or free agency. You're either a warrior or you're a dead warrior. Welcome to Tactical Training Medieval Style, champ, where your playbook consists of try not to die and your game plan is survive until sunset. And you haven't even gotten to game day yet. After miraculously surviving the most traumatic tactical training session in the history of humanity, where you discovered that practice in the medieval era means literally trying to kill your own teammates, your body is screaming in pain like it got run over by a herd of enraged rhinoceroses. In your life as a millionaire athlete, this would be the sacred moment of post-training recovery. You'd walk straight to the state-of-the-art medical department at the training center, where a team of 12 specialists educated at the world's top universities would be waiting to tend to every muscle, tendon, and joint in your millionaire body. Good afternoon, Mr. Linebacker. Dr. Rodriguez, your personal physiotherapist, who charged $800 a session, would say. I saw the training was intense today. Let's start with 20 minutes of cryotherapy at 166 degrees in the cryogenic chamber, followed by pneumatic compression therapy, therapeutic ultrasound, functional electrical stimulation, and a massage with essential oils imported from France. All of this in a medical suite that looked like a spaceship. Machines that cost more than houses, cutting-edge German technology, air purified with HEPA filters, temperature controlled at 70 degrees, and relaxing ambient music playing, while PhDs in sports medicine monitored every heartbeat through wireless sensors connected to your Apple Watch. Pure luxury medical care designed to keep your high-performance human machine running at absolute perfection. Now you're being dragged by two medieval warriors to a hut that looks like it came straight out of a horror movie about witchcraft, where the local doctor is waiting with a smile that would make Hannibal Lecter seem like a friendly dentist. "This is Mortius," Brutus announces proudly. "Our healer and surgeon." Mortius? The guy is literally named Mortius. In your normal life, your doctors had reassuring names like Dr. Peterson, Dr. Williams, Dr. Anderson. Names that inspired trust and professionalism. This guy is named Mortius, which sounds like a combo of death and horrible, and he's wearing an apron that looks like it was used for animal slaughter over the last 50 years. "So," Mortius says with a voice that sounds like sandpaper scraping wood, "I hear you're feeling muscle pains after training." "Yeah," you reply cautiously, already suspecting you'll regret admitting that. "Excellent!" Mortius perks up like a kid on Christmas morning. "I love treating muscle pains. I have a very effective method." In your life as a pro athlete, very effective method meant cutting-edge medical technology, therapeutic lasers, shock-wave machines, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, and treatments that cost more than luxury cars. Mortius grabs a rotten wooden box and opens it like he's presenting crown jewels. But instead of jewels, the box is full of things that definitely shouldn't be in any licensed medical office. "Leeches!" he announces proudly, holding up a slimy creature that looks like an alien parasite. "The most advanced treatment method that exists." Leeches! Leeches! In your normal life, the most exotic thing in your medical treatment was colored kinesio tape patches from a Japanese brand that cost $50 each. Now this medieval psychopath wants to put blood-sucking worms on your body like they're high-tech Band-Aids. "Is this safe?" you ask, backing away slowly. "Completely safe," Mortius assures enthusiastically. "I've been using it for 30 years. Only lost half my patients." Only lost half his patients? In modern medicine, a 50% success rate would be considered criminal malpractice. In medieval medicine, apparently, it's a success story. "How does it work, exactly?" you ask, morbid curiosity overcoming your survival instinct. "Very simple," Mortius explains, like a professor giving a lecture. "Leeches suck out the bad blood that's causing the pain, removes toxins, balances the bodily humors, and occasionally, some patients even survive." Occasionally, some patients even survive. That's not a medical testimonial. That's a warning label. In your life as an athlete, every medical treatment came with extensive clinical trials, FDA approval, peer-reviewed studies, and insurance coverage. The worst side effect you ever experienced was slight drowsiness from prescribed pain medication. Now, you're being offered a treatment where survival is considered a bonus outcome. Where exactly do you plan to put these creatures, you ask, already knowing you'll hate the answer. "All over wherever it hurts," Mortius responds matter-of-factly. "Back, legs, arms, neck. Occasionally on the face, to treat headaches." On the face? To treat headaches? In your normal life, headaches were treated with premium Advil and maybe some electrolyte replacement. "Not with face-eating parasites." "I have an alternative treatment," Mortius offers, apparently sensing your reluctance. "Bloodletting." Bloodletting? Like the Spanish drink? Maybe this doesn't sound so bad. "No," Mortius clarifies, producing what looks like a medieval torture device. "Medical bloodletting. We cut your veins and let the bad blood drain out." "Oh God, no. Not bloodletting the drink. Bloodletting as in, let's literally drain your blood until you pass out." In your medical care as a pro athlete, blood work meant a tiny needle prick for lab analysis. Here, blood work means a medieval vampire treatment designed to cure you through blood loss. How many people survive bloodletting? you ask, dreading the answer. Ah, Mortius pauses thoughtfully. Depends on how many liters we take. Usually between 30 to 70% survival rate. Survival rate between 30 to 70%? Russian roulette has better odds. Maybe there's a third option, you suggest desperately. Of course, Mortius brightens. Trepanation. What is trepanation? We make a hole in your skull to let the evil spirits escape. A hole in your skull to let evil spirits escape? In your normal life, the worst medical procedure you ever had was arthroscopic knee surgery in a 5-star hospital with anesthesia, pain management, and a recovery suite with room service. Now, this maniac wants to drill holes in your skull based on a theory that your muscle aches are caused by demonic possession. You know what? You say, backing toward the door. Maybe my pains aren't so bad after all. Nonsense, Mortius insists. You came here for treatment. You're getting treatment. Brutus specifically ordered a full medical examination. A full medical examination? In your life as a professional athlete, a full medical examination meant state-of-the-art MRI machines, blood panels analyzed by computers, cardiac stress tests monitored by cardiologists, and a comprehensive wellness assessment performed in a sterile medical facility. In medieval times, full medical examination apparently means let's see which medieval torture, masquerading as medical treatment, kills you first. Strip, Mortius orders, pointing to a wooden table that looks like it was used to prepare animal carcasses. Strip, you repeat, hoping you misunderstood. Yes, strip. How can I examine your body if you still have clothes? Fair point. Reluctantly, you remove your medieval tunic, revealing your modern athlete physique that's been through hell over the last 24 hours. Mortius circles around you like a vulture examining roadkill, occasionally poking you with a dirty finger and making sounds that definitely don't inspire confidence. Interesting, he murmurs. Your muscle definition is unusual, very symmetrical. Almost like you trained specifically for physical performance. Well, actually, definitely evil spirits, Mortius concludes matter-of-factly. Only supernatural forces could create a body this perfectly proportioned. We're going to need aggressive treatment. Evil spirits? Your perfectly conditioned athlete body is evidence of demonic possession? In your normal life, your physique was the result of scientific training regimens, professional nutrition, genetic advantages, and approximately $2 million per year in medical and fitness support. In medieval times, any physical excellence beyond barely able to lift farming tools is obviously supernatural and needs to be exorcised through medieval medical procedures. Let's start with leeches, Mortius decides, approaching you with a handful of slimy creatures. Put them all over your back and shoulders. Wait, you shout. Maybe we could try something less. Invasive? Invasive? Mortius looks confused. Leeches aren't invasive. They just suck your blood until they fall off naturally. Oh, good. They'll just drain your blood until they're full and then drop off your body like disgusting blood balloons. Totally reassuring. But you don't have a choice. Brutus is standing in the doorway with his arms crossed, making it clear that refusing treatment isn't an option. Fine, you sigh. But if I die... If you die, Mortius interrupts cheerfully, it means the treatment worked too well. The evil spirits took you with them when they left. That's not how medical treatment is supposed to work. Mortius starts placing leeches on your back, and immediately you feel them attach themselves like little vampire creatures. The sensation is indescribable. like tiny mouths sucking your life force away, drop by drop. How long do they stay on? You ask through gritted teeth. Usually until they're full, Mortius replies. Anywhere from 1 hour to several days. Several days? You might have leeches attached for several days? In your normal medical treatment, the longest procedure you ever endured was a 2-hour knee surgery, and that was with full anesthesia and pain management. Now you might spend several days walking around with blood-sucking parasites attached to your body. And this is considered routine medical care. Don't move too much, Mortius advises. If the leeches fall off before they're finished, the evil spirits might not be completely removed. So now you need to remain perfectly still while creatures drain your blood, because moving might interfere with the exorcism process. This is literally the worst medical experience of your entire life, and you haven't even gotten to the surgery portion yet. Next, Mortius announces, we'll need to balance your humors. Balance my what? Humors. Everyone has 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. When they're unbalanced, it causes sickness and pain. 4 humors. In modern medicine, your body is a complex system of organs, hormones, neurotransmitters, immune responses, and cellular processes understood through centuries of scientific research. In medieval medicine, your body apparently is just 4 mysterious liquids that need to be balanced through procedures that sound like torture methods. How do you balance humors, you ask, afraid of the answer? Easy, Mortius smiles. Vomiting, diarrhea, sweating, and bleeding. We force your body to expel excess humors until balance is restored. So medieval medical treatment consists of making you violently ill through multiple bodily functions simultaneously until you're either cured or dead. Modern medicine, let's use targeted pharmaceuticals to address specific molecular pathways. Medieval medicine, let's make you shit, puke, sweat, and bleed until something good happens. Welcome to healthcare medieval style, champ. Where your medical team consists of one guy named Death, your treatment options are torture methods, and your insurance coverage is pray to whatever gods might be listening. And you still need to get through the rest of the day without dying from medical care. Your recovery routine just became a survival horror game. After 2 hours of being used as an all-you-can-eat buffet for medieval leeches, which apparently considered your A-plus blood type a gourmet delicacy and decided to throw a party on your skin, you finally managed to stagger out of Mortius's medical torture hut, feeling like a blood donor who went through a vampire accident. Very effective treatment, Mortius shouts cheerfully as you stumble toward the exit, with approximately 15 leeches still stuck to your body like disgusting stickers. Come back tomorrow for maintenance bloodletting. Maintenance bloodletting? As if the first torture session was just a warm-up for even more traumatic medical experiences. In your normal life, medical maintenance meant an annual checkup with a doctor who had a Harvard diploma hanging on the wall. Here it means regular sessions of near-death supervised by a guy who learned medicine by watching people die. But now, with the medieval sun starting to set on the horizon, and it's not that romantic sunset you used to admire from your $50 million balcony in Malibu, comes the most dreaded moment of the day: dinner. And after the traumatic lunch experience, which is still making your stomach twist in protest every time you remember the flavor of that entrail soup, you're seriously considering voluntary fasting until you can get back to the 21st century. In your life as a millionaire athlete, dinner was the grand gastronomic finale of the day. You'd return to your mansion after training, and there was your private chef Pierre Auguste waiting with a smile that cost 20 grand a month. "Bonsoir, Monsieur Linebacker," he'd say, with that French accent that only got annoying when you were hungry. "This evening, I've prepared for you a 7-course tasting menu. Bluefin tuna tartare appetizer with beluga caviar, butternut squash soup with white truffle, wild salmon in champagne sauce, herb-crusted lamb with wasabi puree, microgreen salad with raspberry vinaigrette, artisanal French cheeses, and to finish, Belgian chocolate soufflé with Madagascar vanilla ice cream." Each dish presented like a work of art, served on porcelain plates that cost more than standard cars, accompanied by wine whose vintage was older than some countries, all on a dining table that could seat an entire football team. Pure luxury dining designed to nourish an elite athlete with ingredients sourced from the 4 corners of the planet. Now you're sitting at a wooden table that looks like it was used for medieval autopsies, staring at what Brutus proudly presents as a warrior's nightly banquet. And what a banquet this is, for fuck's sake! The main dish seems to be some kind of stew that's literally moving on its own. Not a metaphor. Chunks of the meat are twitching, like they still have a nervous system functioning. "What is this?" you ask, pointing to the suspicious movement in your plate. "Rabbit stew," replies the medieval cook, a woman who looks like she learned cuisine in a haunted house. "Very fresh rabbit." Very fresh. This rabbit seems like it was killed literally 5 minutes ago and thrown into the pot still warm. In your pro-athlete diet, fresh meant ingredients that arrived the same day via refrigerated transport. Here, fresh means still twitching. You poke the meat with your fork, which is more like a pointy wooden stick, and it literally jumps in the plate like it's trying to escape. "Fuck!" you scream, pushing the plate away. "This shit is alive!" "It's not alive," the cook corrects patiently. "It's just very fresh." The difference between alive and very fresh is apparently technical in medieval cuisine. If it's still breathing, it's alive. If it stopped breathing in the last 10 minutes, it's very fresh. "CT, maybe you'd prefer something different?" she offers, producing another dish that looks like it came from a gastronomic horror movie. The second dish is some kind of bird, at least you think it's a bird, that still has all the feathers, head, feet, and a facial expression that suggests it died very unhappily. "What happened to preparation?" you ask, gesturing at the completely unprepared bird. "Preparation?" She looks confused. "We kill, cook, serve. What preparation do you want?" What preparation do I want? In your normal life, preparation meant professional butchering, proper cleaning, seasoning, cooking techniques developed over centuries of culinary arts, presentation that looked like food photography for a gourmet magazine. Here, preparation is grab live animal, kill it, throw it on the fire, done. "Maybe you could remove the head?" you suggest delicately. "Remove the head?" she asks, scandalized. "Why waste a perfectly good brain?" Perfectly good brain? In your pro-athlete diet, you strictly avoided organ meats because they weren't part of the optimized nutrition plan. Now they're suggesting you eat literal brains like they're health food. "Brain very nutritious," she insists. "Good for intelligence." If brains were good for intelligence, these people would be geniuses instead of living like civilization never happened. But you're hungry. A cannibalistic, desperate hunger that's making your stomach digest its own walls. You haven't had a proper meal since you were transported to this medieval nightmare, and your body is starting to shut down non-essential functions. You reluctantly grab a piece of the twitching rabbit and put it in your mouth, hoping the cooking process killed whatever diseases the animal might have been carrying. The taste is indescribable. Imagine mixing rubber bands with swamp water, seasoning with dirt, and maybe some rust flakes for texture. Now imagine that mixture was left to ferment in the sun for a week. Still not close to the actual taste. Good? The cook asks enthusiastically. Delicious, you lie convincingly, trying not to vomit while still chewing. Lying about medieval food is a survival skill. If you complain, they might decide to improve it by adding ingredients that are somehow worse. The next course is something she proudly announces as special fish soup. The soup looks like pond water after a heavy rain, with things floating that definitely shouldn't be in any liquid intended for human consumption. There are eyes, multiple eyes, looking at you. What kind of fish, you ask, already dreading the answer. We're not sure, she admits honestly. We found them floating in the river yesterday. Could be fish, could be other aquatic things. What other aquatic things? In your professional athlete's nutrition plan, you knew exactly what species of fish you were eating, where it was caught, how it was transported, when it was prepared. Now you're being served mystery aquatic creatures that were found floating dead in a medieval river that probably doubles as a sewage system. But you're desperate. You take a small sip of the soup, and immediately every taste receptor in your mouth declares war on your brain. The flavor is a combination of rotten eggs, pond scum, dead fish that's been sitting in the sun too long, and something that tastes suspiciously like medieval toilet paper. Assuming they had toilet paper, which they probably didn't. Jesus Christ! You spit everything out violently, while your eyes water like Niagara Falls. Too salty? She asks, apparently unaware that she just served you liquid nightmare. Too salty? The problem isn't saltiness. The problem is that this tastes like it was filtered through cemetery soil. Maybe you'd prefer dessert, she suggests helpfully. Dessert? After what you just experienced, the last thing you want is a medieval interpretation of sweet treats. But she's already bringing something that looks like a mud pie, if a mud pie was actually made with real mud, and possibly some worms for protein. What is this, you ask, pointing at the brown substance that has the texture of wet cement. Honey cake, she announces proudly. Honey cake? In your life as a professional athlete, dessert meant artisanal gelato, made with organic ingredients, or maybe a slice of cake prepared by a pastry chef who trained in Paris. This looks like construction material that happened to be brown. You take a tiny bite and discover that medieval honey cake is basically dirt mixed with something sticky, possibly tree sap, definitely not actual honey. The texture is like chewing sand mixed with glue. The taste is what you'd imagine dirt would taste like if dirt could go bad. Family recipe, she explains proudly, passed down through 5 generations. 5 generations of people who apparently never tasted actual food. After struggling through approximately 10% of your meal, you finally give up and push everything away. Not hungry? Brutus asks, sitting down beside you with a plate full of the same nightmare food that he's eating, like it's perfectly normal. Actually, you say carefully, I'm on a special diet. Special diet? He looks interested. What kind? How do you explain modern athletic nutrition to a medieval warrior? Well, I need a precise balance of macronutrients, optimal protein synthesis, controlled carbohydrate intake, essential fatty acids. Brutus stares at you like you just spoke in ancient Sumerian. So, you eat different things? He asks, trying to understand. Yes, different things, clean things. Things that don't move on their own. Ah, he nods sagely. You have a weak stomach. Common problem with foreigners. Weak stomach? Your stomach processed victory celebrations, late-night pizza binges, protein shakes that tasted like chalk, and occasional questionable gas station food during road trips. Your stomach isn't weak. This food is literally inedible by any reasonable standard. Tomorrow, Brutus continues, the cook will prepare something more gentle for your delicate constitution. Delicate constitution? You're a 250-pound professional linebacker who played through injuries that would hospitalize normal humans. But you just nod and smile, because arguing about food quality with people who think moving meat is a sign of freshness is a pointless exercise. Now, Brutus stands up, time for evening activities. Evening activities? In your normal life, evening activities meant relaxing in your home theater, checking social media, maybe some light reading or video games. What nightmarish activities await you in medieval times? We practice night combat, Brutus explains cheerfully. Very important skill for real warfare. Night combat? Combat during the day was challenging enough. Night combat sounds like a guaranteed way to die accidentally in the darkness. Welcome to dinner and entertainment medieval style, champ. Where your meal tries to escape from your plate, your dessert doubles as construction material, and your evening entertainment involves potentially fatal activities performed in complete darkness. And you still haven't figured out how to get home yet. After surviving the most traumatic dinner in the history of world gastronomy, where you discovered that fresh food in the medieval era means literally still moving on the plate, you thought you could finally relax and maybe mentally process all the traumas accumulated during this infernal day. In your life as a millionaire athlete, nights were sacred for recovery and entertainment. You'd return to your $20 million mansion, take a hydro-massage bath in your Carrara marble tub that cost more than entire apartments, put on your Italian silk pajamas, and settle comfortably in your private cinema room with 50 motorized reclining leather seats. Good evening, Mr. Linebacker, your personal assistant Marcus would say, appearing with a gold remote in hand. Tonight we have several options for your entertainment. The new Marvel movie on your 4K IMAX system, the complete season of Game of Thrones in 8K Blu-ray, your PlayStation 5 with the new Call of Duty, or perhaps you'd prefer to relax watching highlights of your own games in slow motion? All of this accompanied by gourmet snacks prepared by your personal chef, imported drinks served in Austrian crystal glasses, air conditioning maintaining a perfect temperature of 70 degrees, and zero chance of violent death over the next 8 hours. Pure civilized comfort designed to relax after an intense day of professional training. Now you're being dragged by psychopathic medieval warriors to a dark field where apparently evening entertainment means trying not to die during recreational activities that would make Navy SEALs think twice. Night combat is very important, Brutus explains enthusiastically, handing out weapons that seem to have been forged in hell itself. In real battle, enemies attack when least expected. You need to know how to fight blind. Fight blind? In the NFL, night games were played in stadiums with lighting systems that cost millions of dollars, providing perfect visibility for 80,000 spectators and high-definition TV cameras. Here you're going to practice combat in total darkness, where the only illumination comes from a few torches, flickering like candles in a storm, creating shadows that make everything look like a horror movie set. But how are we going to see what we're doing, you ask, stating the obvious concern that apparently never occurred to medieval warriors. That's the whole point, Olaf responds, appearing from the darkness like a Viking ghost. In real battle, you don't see nothing. Just swing your sword and hope to hit the enemy instead of a friend. Swing your sword and hope to hit the enemy? That's the whole strategy? In the NFL, even in the most chaotic situations, you had a comprehensive game plan, clear assignments, communication systems, and referees to ensure rules were followed. Here the strategy is literally swing weapons randomly in the darkness and pray for the best-case scenario. What if we accidentally hit each other, you ask, genuinely concerned about friendly fire situations? Happens all the time, Brutus shrugs casually. Part of training makes you more careful. Happens all the time? Part of training? In your athletic career, the worst injury you could inflict on a teammate during practice was a hard tackle that might cause bruising. Accidentally killing your own teammates with medieval weapons wasn't listed in any training manual you ever read. Don't worry, Olaf adds helpfully. Usually, we only lose 1 or 2 people per session. 1 or 2 people per session. This isn't a training exercise. This is Russian roulette with swords. But apparently, you don't have a choice. Brutus hands you a sword that weighs more than your entire uniform equipment, including helmet and shoulder pads, and points toward an area where approximately 20 warriors are already engaging in what sounds like a medieval version of cage fighting. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of metal hitting metal echoes through the darkness, punctuated occasionally by screams that you really hope are victory shouts and not death cries. Your assignment, Brutus announces, is to survive 30 minutes without getting killed. Survive 30 minutes without getting killed? In the NFL, your assignment was to tackle running backs, intercept passes, defend against offensive plays. Clear objectives with measurable outcomes. Here, your only objective is to continue existing until an arbitrary time limit, which seems like a surprisingly low bar for success, but probably appropriate given the circumstances. You step into the darkness, immediately realizing that you can't see shit. The flickering torchlight creates more shadows than illumination, making everything look like a funhouse mirror maze designed by a sadistic medieval architect. Whoosh! Something sharp passes inches from your face. Holy fuck! You scream, ducking instinctively. Good reflexes! Somebody yells from the darkness. But need to work on counterattack. Counterattack? How are you supposed to counterattack something you can't see? In football, you could read offensive formations, anticipate plays, react to visual cues. Here you're basically playing a deadly version of Marco Polo with weapons. You swing your sword in the general direction where you think the attack came from, hitting nothing but air and nearly losing your balance in the process. Clang! Your sword connects with something hard, hopefully another sword and not somebody's skull. Not bad, a voice calls out. Try to follow up. Follow up. Follow up. What? You don't know what you hit, where it went, or whether it was an enemy weapon or a friendly warrior. Another attack comes from a different direction, and you barely manage to raise your sword in time to block. The impact sends vibrations through your arms that feel like being struck by lightning. Jesus Christ! You yell, stumbling backwards and tripping over something that might be a rock, a log, or an unconscious person. This is insanity. Absolute insanity. In your football career, you played in some intense situations. Playoff games, championship moments, high-pressure scenarios. But even in the most chaotic plays, you had some idea what was happening around you. Here, you're participating in an activity that makes bar fights look organized and strategic. Thud! Something hits you in the back, not sharp enough to be a sword, but heavy enough to knock you forward onto your knees. Watch your 6, somebody advises helpfully, after you've already been attacked. Watch your six? How are you supposed to watch anything when you can't see anything? You struggle to get back on your feet, only to realize that you've dropped your sword somewhere in the darkness. Now you're unarmed in the middle of medieval combat training that apparently has a casualty rate higher than actual warfare. Lost your weapon? Olaf's voice comes from somewhere nearby. Use your hands. Use your hands. Use your hands against people with swords? In the NFL, using your hands meant catching passes, blocking, tackling, all activities with specific techniques, safety protocols, and protective equipment. Here, using your hands means trying to fight armed warriors with nothing but your natural appendages, and hope that they don't decide to remove said appendages with sharp objects. But you don't have a choice. You raise your fists in a basic boxing stance that you learned during off-season training, feeling completely ridiculous facing medieval combat with modern fighting techniques. Whoosh! Another sword swing passes close enough to trim your hair. You duck, weave, and try to close the distance to grapple, thinking that maybe your NFL training in close combat might help. Bad mistake. As soon as you get within grabbing range, somebody tackles you with a technique that makes NFL linebacker hits look gentle. You go down hard, landing in mud that feels suspiciously warm and sticky. Grappling! Brutus yells approvingly. Very good adaptation. This isn't grappling. This is a dog pile of medieval warriors trying to determine who gets to practice stabbing motions on who. You're at the bottom of the pile, getting crushed by approximately 300 pounds of armored warriors, trying to breathe while somebody's elbow is grinding into your ribs, and somebody else's knee is dangerously close to causing permanent injury to areas that you'd prefer to keep functional. Get off! Get off! You scream, but your voice is muffled by a combination of mud and medieval body armor. Finally, the pile breaks up, and you emerge looking like you've been used as a practice dummy for a professional wrestling federation specializing in particularly violent moves. Excellent work, Brutus announces, apparently genuinely impressed. You survived full contact night combat training. Survived? You barely survived. And that's considered excellent performance? How much time left? You ask desperately, hoping that the 30-minute session is almost over. Time? Brutus looks confused. That was the warm-up. Real training starts now. That was the warm-up? Warm-up for what? Now we'll practice stealth kills, he explains cheerfully. Stealth kills? In the NFL, stealth meant surprising offensive plays, unexpected formations, tactical deception, not literally sneaking around in the darkness trying to assassinate people. What are stealth kills exactly? You ask, though you're pretty sure you don't want to know the answer. Simple, Olaf explains. Half the team hides in the darkness. The other half tries to find them. When you find somebody, you practice killing techniques. Practice killing techniques? This definitely wasn't covered in any athletic training manual you ever read. What happens if somebody actually gets killed, you ask? Then they learn a valuable lesson about being more careful next time, Brutus responds logically. Next time? If they're dead, there won't be a next time. But medieval logic operates on different principles than modern reasoning. Apparently, death is just another learning experience, like fumbling a football or missing a free throw, except with more permanent consequences. I'll be a seeker, Olaf volunteers. The rest of you hide. Hide? Hide where? You're in the middle of an open field with some trees and rocks. This isn't an elaborate hide-and-seek playground. This is a patch of medieval landscape that offers about as much hiding opportunity as a football stadium during a halftime show. But everybody else immediately disappears into the darkness like they've been practicing this shit since childhood, which they probably have. You stumble around trying to find a hiding spot, eventually crouching behind a tree that offers concealment roughly equivalent to a lamppost. You're pretty sure that anybody looking can see you perfectly, but maybe the darkness will help. 5 minutes later, you hear soft footsteps approaching. Your heart starts pounding like you're back in the fourth quarter of a championship game, except the stakes are slightly higher. Instead of losing the game, you might lose your life. The footsteps get closer. Closer. You hold your breath, trying to remain perfectly still. Suddenly, a hand grabs your shoulder. "Found you," Olaf whispers triumphantly. "Now what?" you whisper back. "Now I practice killing you," he responds matter-of-factly. And that's when you realize that your evening entertainment has officially become a survival horror experience. In your normal life, evening activities were designed to help you relax and recover from daily stresses. In medieval times, evening activities are designed to prepare you for situations where relaxation means you're probably dead. Welcome to nighttime recreation medieval style, Champ. Where your Netflix subscription is replaced with potentially fatal training exercises, your comfort food is terror-inducing combat drills, and your bedtime story involves somebody practicing assassination techniques on you. And you still have to survive until morning to do this all over again tomorrow. Your evening entertainment just became extreme sports with medieval weapons, and you're beginning to understand why medieval people went to bed when the sun went down. Not because they were tired, because staying awake after dark significantly increased the chance of death. After miraculously surviving the most traumatic nighttime activities in the history of humanity, where you discovered that medieval entertainment consists of trying not to die during games that would make the Hunger Games seem like child's play, finally comes the most anticipated moment of the day: bedtime. And when you thought things couldn't get any worse, medieval reality gives you a slap in the face that would make Mike Tyson in his prime seem like a grandma's caress. In your life as a millionaire athlete, bedtime was a sacred ritual of luxury and scientific recovery. You'd climb the marble staircase of your mansion, pass through the hallway decorated with trophies and photos of you with presidents and celebrities, and enter your 2,000-square-foot master suite that looked more like a spaceship designed for supreme comfort. "Good evening, Mr. Linebacker," your personal assistant Jennifer would say, adjusting the controls on your 80-grand smart bed. Your bed is already configured for optimal body temperature of 65. 3D firmness adjusted for maximum muscle recovery, massage system programmed for 45 minutes of localized percussion therapy, and aromatherapy diffuser activated with relaxing lavender oils imported from Provence. The room had air conditioning with individual climate control, motorized blackout curtains that blocked 100% of external light, a built-in Bose sound system playing white noise scientifically calibrated to induce deep REM sleep, a mini fridge stocked with chilled alkaline water and recovery drinks, and even an air ionizer that purified every molecule of oxygen you breathed. Your king-size bed wasn't just furniture. It was command central for nighttime recovery. Mattress with individually pocketed springs that adjusted to your body automatically. Egyptian cotton sheets with 1,500 thread count that cost more than luxury cars. Memory foam pillows with cooling gel that maintained perfect head temperature, and a Siberian goose down comforter that hugged you like a heavenly cloud. Pure sleep sanctuary designed by sleep scientists to optimize recovery for an elite athlete. Now you're looking at your medieval bedroom, and questioning if it wouldn't be more comfortable to sleep literally in a grave in the cemetery. "This is your sleeping quarters," Brutus announces proudly, pointing to something that a generous person might classify as a shelter, but a realistic person would call a structured disaster. It's a wooden hut that looks like it was built by drunks using tools that were rejected by the Stone Age. The planks are so crooked you can see through the gaps between them. The roof has holes that allow free entry for rain, wind, small animals, and possibly demons. And the whole structure sways when the wind blows like it's made of toothpicks. "Very cozy," Brutus continues, apparently proud of accommodations that wouldn't meet standards for a prison cell in a third-world country. Cozy? In your mansion, cozy meant a gas fireplace with remote control, Scottish cashmere throws, and heated floors that maintained perfect temperature. This here is cozy, like a tornado is a gentle breeze. You duck through the doorway that clearly wasn't designed for people taller than medieval hobbits, and immediately hit your head on a wooden beam that's hanging exactly at forehead level. "Fuck!" you scream, holding your skull that now has an indent shaped like medieval architecture. "Watch your head," Brutus advises helpfully, after you've already suffered a potential concussion. Inside the hut is even worse than the outside. The floor is dirt-packed so hard it feels like concrete, but less comfortable. There's a smell in the air that suggests previous occupants might have been livestock, or at least people who lived like livestock. And then you see your bed. Holy Mother of God, what crime against humanity is this? In your life as a professional athlete, you slept in a bed that was an engineering marvel: computer-controlled firmness, temperature regulation, spinal alignment optimization, pressure point relief, and a warranty that lasted longer than some marriages. What you're looking at now can technically be classified as a sleeping surface only in the sense that it's horizontal, and you theoretically could lie down on it. But calling it a bed is an insult to beds everywhere. It's a pile of straw, and not fresh straw, but straw that looks like it was used to stable animals for several months, then left to ferment in its own juices. The mattress is basically a burlap sack stuffed with what might be hay or might be decomposing plant matter. Impossible to tell without forensic analysis. For a pillow, there's a smaller sack filled with something that feels like rocks mixed with sand. For a blanket, there's a piece of cloth that might have been animal hide in a previous life, but now looks like disaster relief material that was rejected for being too horrific for disaster victims. "Very comfortable," Brutus assures you, apparently observing your horrified expression. "Straw is fresh. Changed just last month." Changed just last month? In your normal sleeping arrangements, sheets were changed daily by professional housekeeping staff. Pillowcases laundered with organic detergents, mattress sanitized weekly, whole bedroom deep cleaned regularly by a team that had security clearance. Your current bedding was last refreshed when the Renaissance was still a future concept. "Where's the bathroom?" you ask, hoping against hope that there's some primitive toilet facility nearby. "Bathroom?" Brutus looks confused by the concept. "You know, toilet? Place to relieve yourself?" "Ah," understanding dawns on his face. "Chamber pot under the bed." "Chamber pot under the bed?" You look under the bed and see a clay vessel that looks like it was used for terrible purposes by many people for a very long time without ever being properly cleaned. In your mansion, you had a master bathroom that was bigger than most people's entire homes. Marble everything, heated floors, rainfall shower that could be programmed for different water pressure and temperature settings, Japanese smart toilet that had more features than some cars, and a separate water closet for privacy. Now your bathroom is a clay pot that you have to empty yourself, assuming you survive the night without dying from whatever diseases might be living in your bedding. What about security, you ask, realizing that there's no locks on the door, no security system, no panic buttons. Security? Brutus laughs. You're surrounded by the best warriors in the land. Who gonna attack you? Who gonna attack you? Maybe some of those best warriors who spend their evenings practicing assassination techniques on each other for fun. In your normal life, you slept in a fortress, security system with motion detectors, cameras, armed guards, panic rooms, backup generators, and a direct line to a private security firm that could respond faster than the police. Now your security consists of hoping that psychotic medieval warriors don't decide to practice their killing skills on you during the night. Sleep well, Brutus says, leaving you alone with your terror. You stare at the bed for a full 5 minutes, trying to psychologically prepare yourself for what's about to be the worst night's sleep in human history. Finally, you gingerly sit down on the pile of questionable straw. Immediately, a cloud of dust rises that makes you cough like a tuberculosis patient. Something scurries away that might have been a mouse, a rat, or a small demon. You lie down slowly, and every part of the straw pile makes a crunching sound like you're lying on a pile of broken glass mixed with potato chips. The pillow feels like a bag of concrete, but you're too exhausted to care. Your body has been through medieval hell today, and you need some kind of rest to survive tomorrow's undoubtedly worse experiences. You pull the blanket over yourself, immediately regretting the decision when the smell hits you like a chemical weapon. It's a combination of wet animal, mildew, human sweat that's been accumulating for months, and something else that you prefer not to identify. Outside, you can hear the sounds of a medieval night. Owls hooting, wolves howling in the distance, drunk warriors singing songs about dismembering enemies, the occasional scream that might be celebration or might be murder, and the constant creaking of wooden structures that sound like they're about to collapse. Inside your room, you can hear different sounds. Mice, hopefully mice, running around in the walls, the roof dripping in approximately 12 different places, wind whistling through gaps in the walls, and your own breathing that sounds loud in the silence. Every time you try to get comfortable, something sharp pokes you through the straw. Every position you try results in a new form of discomfort. Your neck hurts, your back aches, your legs are cramping, and you're pretty sure something bit you while you weren't paying attention. In your normal bedroom, you fell asleep to the sounds of gentle white noise, perfectly regulated temperature, in a bed that adjusted to your body automatically. You slept like a baby, waking up refreshed and ready for another day of professional athletic excellence. Now you're lying awake listening to sounds that suggest the medieval world is trying to kill you even when you're attempting to rest, in a bed that feels like punishment designed by medieval torture experts, surrounded by smells that would make a garbage dump seem fragrant. This is a nightmare, you whisper to yourself. This has to be a nightmare. I'm gonna wake up in my real bed, in my real life, and this medieval hell will just be a bad dream caused by too much champagne after the Super Bowl. But you don't wake up in your mansion. You're still in the medieval cabin that smells like a farm animal cemetery, lying on straw that probably harbors diseases that haven't been discovered yet, listening to sounds of a civilization that apparently peaked in the Stone Age. And the worst part? Tomorrow, you have to do this all over again. Same horrible food, same dangerous training, same medical torture, same evening combat activities, same impossible sleeping conditions. Welcome to bedroom medieval style, champ. where your sleep sanctuary is replaced with survival camping in conditions that would make prisoners of war file complaints. Your luxury bedding is swapped for material that might be classified as a biological hazard, and your good night's rest becomes an endurance test for your sanity. And you're beginning to understand why people in medieval times died so young. It wasn't diseases, wars, or famines. It was sleep deprivation caused by trying to rest in conditions that make sleeping on park benches seem like a five-star hotel experience. Sweet dreams, medieval warrior. Try not to die in your sleep, because apparently that's a legitimate concern in your new lifestyle. After miraculously surviving the most traumatic nighttime activities in the history of humanity, where you discovered that medieval entertainment consists of trying not to die during games that would make the Hunger Games seem like child's play, finally comes the most anticipated moment of the day: bedtime. And when you thought things couldn't get any worse, medieval reality gives you a slap in the face that would make Mike Tyson in his prime seem like a grandma's caress. In your life as a millionaire athlete, bedtime was a sacred ritual of luxury and scientific recovery. You'd climb the marble staircase of your mansion, pass through the hallway decorated with trophies and photos of you with presidents and celebrities, and enter your 2,000-square-foot master suite that looked more like a spaceship designed for supreme comfort. "Good evening, Mr. Linebacker," your personal assistant Jennifer would say, adjusting the controls on your 80-grand smart bed. Your bed is already configured for optimal body temperature of 65.3 Breeks, firmness adjusted for maximum muscle recovery, massage system programmed for 45 minutes of localized percussion therapy, and aromatherapy diffuser activated with relaxing lavender oils imported from Provence. The room had air conditioning with individual climate control, motorized blackout curtains that blocked 100% of external light, a built-in Bose sound system playing white noise scientifically calibrated to induce deep REM sleep, a mini fridge stocked with chilled alkaline water and recovery drinks, and even an air ionizer that purified every molecule of oxygen you breathed. Your king-size bed wasn't just furniture. It was command central for nighttime recovery. Mattress with individually pocketed springs that adjusted to your body automatically. Egyptian cotton sheets with 1,500 thread count that cost more than luxury cars. Memory foam pillows with cooling gel that maintained perfect head temperature, and a Siberian goose down comforter that hugged you like a heavenly cloud. Pure sleep sanctuary designed by sleep scientists to optimize recovery for an elite athlete. Now you're looking at your medieval bedroom and questioning if it wouldn't be more comfortable to sleep literally in a grave in the cemetery. "This is your sleeping quarters," Brutus announces proudly, pointing to something that a generous person might classify as a shelter, but a realistic person would call a structured disaster. It's a wooden hut that looks like it was built by drunks using tools that were rejected by the Stone Age. The planks are so crooked you can see through the gaps between them. The roof has holes that allow free entry for rain, wind, small animals, and possibly demons. And the whole structure sways when the wind blows like it's made of toothpicks. "Very cozy," Brutus continues, apparently proud of accommodations that wouldn't meet standards for a prison cell in a third-world country. Cozy? In your mansion, cozy meant a gas fireplace with remote control, Scottish cashmere throws, and heated floors that maintained perfect temperature. This here is cozy, like a tornado is a gentle breeze. You duck through the doorway that clearly wasn't designed for people taller than medieval hobbits, and immediately hit your head on a wooden beam that's hanging exactly at forehead level. "Fuck!" you scream. holding your skull that now has an indent shaped like medieval architecture. Watch your head, Brutus advises helpfully, after you've already suffered a potential concussion. Inside the hut is even worse than the outside. The floor is dirt-packed so hard it feels like concrete, but less comfortable. There's a smell in the air that suggests previous occupants might have been livestock, or at least people who lived like livestock. And then you see your bed. Holy Mother of God, what crime against humanity is this? In your life as a professional athlete, you slept in a bed that was an engineering marvel: computer-controlled firmness, temperature regulation, spinal alignment optimization, pressure point relief, and a warranty that lasted longer than some marriages. What you're looking at now can technically be classified as a sleeping surface only in the sense that it's horizontal, and you theoretically could lie down on it. But calling it a bed is an insult to beds everywhere. It's a pile of straw, and not fresh straw, but straw that looks like it was used to stable animals for several months, then left to ferment in its own juices. The mattress is basically a burlap sack stuffed with what might be hay or might be decomposing plant matter. Impossible to tell without forensic analysis. For a pillow, there's a smaller sack filled with something that feels like rocks mixed with sand. For a blanket, there's a piece of cloth that might have been animal hide in a previous life, but now looks like disaster relief material that was rejected for being too horrific for disaster victims. Very comfortable, Brutus assures you, apparently observing your horrified expression. Straw is fresh, changed just last month. Changed just last month? In your normal sleeping arrangements, sheets were changed daily by professional housekeeping staff. Pillowcases laundered with organic detergents, mattress sanitized weekly, whole bedroom deep cleaned regularly by a team that had security clearance. Your current bedding was last refreshed when the Renaissance was still a future concept. Where's the bathroom? You ask, hoping against hope that there's some primitive toilet facility nearby. Bathroom? Brutus looks confused by the concept. You know, toilet? Place to relieve yourself? Ah, understanding dawns on his face. Chamber pot under the bed. Chamber pot under the bed? You look under the bed and see a clay vessel that looks like it was used for terrible purposes by many people for a very long time without ever being properly cleaned. In your mansion, you had a master bathroom that was bigger than most people's entire homes. Marble everything, heated floors, rainfall shower that could be programmed for different water pressure and temperature settings, Japanese smart toilet that had more features than some cars, and a separate water closet for privacy. Now your bathroom is a clay pot that you have to empty yourself, assuming you survive the night without dying from whatever diseases might be living in your bedding. What about security, you ask, realizing that there's no locks on the door, no security system, no panic buttons. Security? Brutus laughs. You're surrounded by the best warriors in the land. Who gonna attack you? Who gonna attack you? Maybe some of those best warriors who spend their evenings practicing assassination techniques on each other for fun. In your normal life, you slept in a fortress, security system with motion detectors, cameras, armed guards, panic rooms, backup generators, and a direct line to a private security firm that could respond faster than the police. Now your security consists of hoping that psychotic medieval warriors don't decide to practice their killing skills on you during the night. Sleep well, Brutus says, leaving you alone with your terror. You stare at the bed for a full 5 minutes, trying to psychologically prepare yourself for what's about to be the worst night's sleep in human history. Finally, you gingerly sit down on the pile of questionable straw. Immediately, A cloud of dust rises that makes you cough like a tuberculosis patient. Something scurries away that might have been a mouse, a rat, or a small demon. You lie down slowly, and every part of the straw pile makes a crunching sound like you're lying on a pile of broken glass mixed with potato chips. The pillow feels like a bag of concrete, but you're too exhausted to care. Your body has been through medieval hell today, and you need some kind of rest to survive tomorrow's undoubtedly worse experiences. You pull the blanket over yourself, immediately regretting the decision when the smell hits you like a chemical weapon. It's a combination of wet animal, mildew, human sweat that's been accumulating for months, and something else that you prefer not to identify. Outside, you can hear the sounds of a medieval night. Owls hooting, wolves howling in the distance, drunk warriors singing songs about dismembering enemies, the occasional scream that might be celebration or might be murder, and the constant creaking of wooden structures that sound like they're about to collapse. Inside your room, you can hear different sounds. Mice, hopefully mice, running around in the walls, the roof dripping in approximately 12 different places, wind whistling through gaps in the walls, and your own breathing that sounds loud in the silence. Every time you try to get comfortable, something sharp pokes you through the straw. Every position you try results in a new form of discomfort. Your neck hurts, your back aches, your legs are cramping, and you're pretty sure something bit you while you weren't paying attention. In your normal bedroom, you fell asleep to the sounds of gentle white noise, perfectly regulated temperature, in a bed that adjusted to your body automatically. You slept like a baby, waking up refreshed and ready for another day of professional athletic excellence. Now you're lying awake listening to sounds that suggest the medieval world is trying to kill you even when you're attempting to rest, in a bed that feels like punishment designed by medieval torture experts, surrounded by smells that would make a garbage dump seem fragrant. "This is a nightmare," you whisper to yourself. "This has to be a nightmare. I'm going to wake up in my real bed, in my real life, and this medieval hell will just be a bad dream caused by too much champagne after the Super Bowl." But you don't wake up in your mansion. You're still in the medieval cabin that smells like a farm animal cemetery, lying on straw that probably harbors diseases that haven't been discovered yet, listening to sounds of a civilization that apparently peaked in the Stone Age. And the worst part? Tomorrow, you have to do this all over again. Same horrible food, same dangerous training, same medical torture, same evening combat activities, same impossible sleeping conditions. Welcome to bedroom medieval style, champ, where your sleep sanctuary is replaced with survival camping in conditions that would make prisoners of war file complaints. Your luxury bedding is swapped for material that might be classified as a biological hazard, and your good night's rest becomes an endurance test for your sanity. And you're beginning to understand why people in medieval times died so young. It wasn't diseases, wars, or famines. It was sleep deprivation caused by trying to rest in conditions that make sleeping on park benches seem like a five-star hotel experience. Sweet dreams, medieval warrior. Try not to die in your sleep, because apparently that's a legitimate concern in your new lifestyle. After swallowing the most toxic breakfast in the history of world gastronomy, which probably violated several international conventions on chemical weapons, you're dragged by the medieval warriors to what they enthusiastically call siege defense training. And when you see the training arena, your hopes of surviving until lunch plummet faster than Enron stocks in 2001. In your life as a millionaire athlete, game day preparation meant arriving at a $2 billion climate-controlled stadium, with a locker room that looked like a luxury spa, NASA-approved equipment for maximum protection, and a medical staff of 15 specialists monitoring every heartbeat through technology that cost more than small nations. "Good morning, champion," Dr. Peterson, your personal sports physician, would say. "Today's game simulation will be conducted under controlled conditions with safety protocols approved by medical boards, referees trained to enforce protective rules, and emergency medical equipment standing by. Your performance will be monitored by computers that can detect potential injuries before they occur." All of this in an environment where the most dangerous thing that could happen was a concussion, which resulted in immediate medical attention and protective protocols designed to prevent long-term damage. Pure applied sports science to maximize performance while minimizing risk. Now you're looking at what is apparently a complete simulation of medieval warfare, complete with castle walls, catapults loaded with rocks the size of cars, cauldrons of boiling oil, and warriors running around screaming like extras from 300 who took an overdose of medieval methamphetamine. "Welcome to siege defense training," Brutus bellows like a drill sergeant who's completely lost his sanity. "Today, you're going to learn how to defend a castle against enemies who want to kill everyone inside." Kill everyone inside? In the NFL, opposing teams wanted to win games, not exterminate you and everyone you know. The worst-case scenario was losing a championship, not total genocide. "This castle," Brutus continues, pointing to a stone structure that looks like it was built by giants with serious architectural problems, "is under attack by an army of 500 bloodthirsty warriors. Your job is to survive until sunset." Survive until sunset? In your career as a professional athlete, your job was to execute the game plan, make tackles, defend against offensive plays. Clear objectives with measurable success criteria. Here, your only objective is to continue breathing until an arbitrary time limit, which seems both simple and impossible simultaneously. What happens if we don't survive until sunset, you ask, genuinely concerned about the failure consequences. "Then you die," Olaf responds matter-of-factly, as if explaining the weather forecast. "But don't worry. Usually, we only lose half the team during training." Usually only lose half the team. During training? In the NFL, losing even one player to a serious injury during practice would result in an investigation, policy changes, and congressional hearings. Here, a 50% casualty rate is considered a normal training day. "Where's the medical team?" you ask, looking around for emergency responders. "Medical team?" Brutus looks confused. "What's a medical team?" "You know, doctors, paramedics, people who help when someone gets injured." "Oh," understanding dawns on his face. "We have Mortius." "Mortius? The same guy who yesterday tried to cure your muscle soreness using blood-sucking parasites and threatened to drill holes in your skull? What happens if someone gets seriously hurt?" you persist. "Mortius will either cure them or bury them," Brutus explains helpfully. "Usually, bury them." Usually bury them? Medical treatment with a higher mortality rate than the disease itself. But you don't have time to contemplate medieval healthcare inadequacies because suddenly the air fills with a sound that makes your blood freeze. War horns blowing, drums beating, and approximately 500 men screaming like demons released from hell. "Attack begins!" Brutus shouts. "Everyone to positions." Positions? What positions? In the NFL, you had specific assignments, a detailed playbook, clear responsibilities. Everyone knew exactly where to go, what to do, when to do it. Here, positions apparently means run around randomly and try not to die. You look over the castle wall and see a sight that would make Hollywood special effects teams take notes. An army of warriors charging up the hill, carrying ladders, ropes, battering rams, and various implements designed to cause maximum carnage. They're screaming war cries that sound like a mixture of berserker fury, bloodlust, and probably mental illness. Some are wearing armor that looks like it was made from recycled cooking pots. Others are basically naked, except for weapons that are bigger than they are. "Incoming arrows!" somebody yells. Incoming arrows? In the NFL, incoming passes were thrown by professional quarterbacks aiming for receivers' hands. Incoming arrows are deadly projectiles aiming for your vital organs with the intention of ending your existence. Thunk, 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 thunk. Arrows start embedding themselves in the wooden walls around you with a sound that reminds you of nail guns, except instead of building construction, they're constructing your death. "Shields up!" Brutus screams. You grab a shield that weighs approximately 40 pounds and try to hold it steady while arrows rain down like deadly precipitation. Each arrow that hits your shield sends vibrations through your arms that feel like being struck by lightning repeatedly. "Catapult!" somebody shouts from the distance. Catapult? You look up and see a giant medieval artillery piece launching a boulder that appears to be the size of a small car, arcing through the air in a slow-motion trajectory aimed directly at the castle wall you're standing on. Whoosh! Boom! The impact shakes the entire castle like an earthquake. Stone fragments fly everywhere like shrapnel from an explosion. A dust cloud rises that makes you cough like you're in a coal mine collapse. In the NFL, the worst collision you experienced was a full-speed tackle between two 250-pound athletes. That was a gentle bump compared to medieval siege warfare, where buildings literally explode around you. "Ladder on east wall," somebody screams. You turn and see enemy warriors climbing up a scaling ladder like determined ants, carrying swords, axes, and expressions that suggest they're planning to use them in creative ways. "Push ladder away," Brutus orders. Push ladder away? With what? Your bare hands? In the NFL, you tackled running backs who were trying to avoid you. Pushing away a ladder full of armed psychopaths while under arrow fire is a slightly more challenging assignment. But you don't have a choice. You run to the ladder, grab it with both hands, and try to push it away from the wall, while the warriors climbing up try to stab you through the gaps in the stone. "Heave!" you grunt, putting all your NFL-trained leg strength into pushing the ladder backwards. Crash! The ladder falls backwards, sending approximately 8 warriors tumbling down in a pile that would be hilarious if they weren't trying to kill you 30 seconds ago. "Good work!" Brutus approves. "Now handle the battering ram." Battering ram? You look down and see a group of 20 warriors carrying a tree trunk that's been converted into a door-breaching device, heading straight for the main gate. Boom! 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 Each impact shakes the castle like a giant hammer hitting a building foundation. You can hear wood splintering, metal bending, and structural integrity beginning to fail. "Stop the battering ram," Brutus orders, as if you're supposed to single-handedly halt a siege engine operated by a small army. "How?" you scream back over the sound of warfare. "Boiling oil," he responds cheerfully, pointing to a cauldron of bubbling liquid that appears to be heated to a temperature that would melt human skin instantly. Boiling oil? In the NFL, the most dangerous liquid you handled was Gatorade that might be slightly too warm. Now, you're supposed to pour molten death on people? "I don't think—" you start to protest. "No thinking," Brutus interrupts. "Just pour." Another warrior helps you lift the cauldron that weighs approximately 80 pounds and contains enough superheated oil to deep fry an entire offensive line. You struggle to position it over the battlement where the battering ram team is working. "On three," the other warrior says. "1, 2. "Wait," you interrupt. "Are we actually going to—" "3." Together you tip the cauldron, sending a cascade of boiling oil down onto the battering ram team below. The screams that follow will haunt your nightmares for the rest of your life, assuming you survive long enough to have nightmares. It's the sound of human suffering that no amount of NFL training prepared you to witness. "Excellent!" Brutus cheers, as if you just scored a touchdown instead of participating in a medieval war crime. But there's no time to process the moral implications of your actions because siege warfare doesn't pause for ethical reflection. "Fire arrows!" somebody shouts. Fire arrows! Regular arrows weren't dangerous enough. Now they're shooting flaming projectiles designed to burn the castle down with you inside? You look up and see dozens of burning arrows arcing through the sky like deadly fireworks, landing in wooden structures and immediately setting everything ablaze. "Water brigade!" Brutus commands. "Put out the fires before the castle burns down." Water brigade? You grab a bucket and run to the well, realizing that you're now a firefighter, soldier, and siege defense specialist simultaneously, without training in any of these professions. You pour water on flames that are spreading faster than you can extinguish them, while continuing to dodge arrows, avoid catapult bombardment, and listen to the sounds of enemies trying to breach the walls in multiple locations. This isn't a training exercise. This is a full-scale medieval combat simulation, with real fire, real weapons, real injuries, and a real possibility of real death. In the NFL, you played in some high-pressure situations, playoff games, championship moments, career-defining plays, but even in the most intense scenarios, you knew it was a game with rules, referees, medical support, and guaranteed safety protocols. Here you're participating in warfare that has no rules except survival, no referees except death, no medical support except a guy who thinks leeches cure everything, and absolutely no safety protocols whatsoever. "Breachin' North Wall!" somebody screams. You turn and see that enemy warriors have successfully created a hole in the castle wall and are pouring through like a flood of armed psychopaths, seeking vengeance for the boiling oil incident. Hand-to-hand combat begins immediately. No formations, no strategy, no coordination, just a medieval mosh pit packing dangerous weapons where everybody tries to kill everybody else. Clang! 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 The sound of metal hitting metal echoes throughout the courtyard, mixed with screams, war cries, and the occasional sound that you really don't want to identify. You find yourself in the middle of this chaos, holding a sword that you barely know how to use, surrounded by people who definitely know how to use their weapons and are actively trying to demonstrate their skills on your body. "Defend yourself!" Brutus yells, as if you need encouragement to avoid being chopped into linebacker-sized pieces. Swing. An enemy axe passes inches from your head. Block. You manage to deflect a sword thrust that would have opened you up like a can of sardines. Duck. A mace swings over your head with a force that would have turned your skull into a medieval pancake. This is beyond anything the NFL prepared you for. Even the most violent tackles, hardest hits, most aggressive defensive plays were controlled violence with protective equipment and medical oversight. This is uncontrolled medieval violence that could literally end your life at any second, and apparently that's considered a normal training day. After what feels like hours but probably only lasts 20 minutes, A horn sounds, indicating the end of the training exercise. Everybody stops fighting immediately and returns to normal behavior, as if the simulated warfare is just another Tuesday activity. "Excellent performance," Brutus announces, surveying the battlefield that looks like a disaster area. "Only lost 3 people today." Only lost 3 people? 3 actual people died during training? You look around and see that indeed, 3 warriors are lying motionless, not pretending to be dead, but actually dead, killed during a siege defense exercise that was supposed to be an educational experience. Is that normal? You ask, shocked. "Very good day," Brutus responds proudly. "Usually lose more during siege training." Usually lose more? Medieval training has casualty rates that would make actual warfare seem safe. Welcome to Siege Defense Training Medieval Style, champ, where your game day preparation involves actual artillery, your practice drills include real combat, and your injury report literally includes death certificates. And you survived Day 2 of medieval hell, which apparently makes you a statistical anomaly. Your siege defense training just became a warfare simulation more realistic than you ever wanted to experience, and you're starting to understand why medieval castles needed to be so heavily fortified. It wasn't to keep enemies out. It was to keep training exercises from killing everybody inside. Tomorrow, advanced siege tactics, which probably means they add dragons. After miraculously surviving the most traumatic siege defense training in the history of humanity, where you discovered that war simulation in the medieval era means literally real war with people actually dying around you, the sun finally starts to set on the medieval horizon, painting the sky with colors that would be beautiful if you weren't covered in blood, sweat, tears, boiling oil, and probably some parts of people that you prefer not to identify. And while you're standing there, leaning against a stone wall that's still hot from the catapult attacks, trying to mentally process the fact that you survived a full day in the fucking Middle Ages, a cosmic realization hits you like a tackle from Ray Lewis in his prime. Being a professional NFL player is the easiest life that exists in the universe. In your normal life as a millionaire athlete, you used to complain about everything. Trainings that were too intense, tiring travels, media pressure, contracts that only paid $12 million a year, hotels that didn't have 24-hour room service, masseuses who arrived 5 minutes late for appointments. "This is so hard," you'd whine to your agents after trainings that lasted 3 hours in a climate-controlled facility. "I need better recovery time, more comfortable travel arrangements, an upgrade for my personal chef, and maybe a longer vacation in the off-season." You thought the life of a professional athlete was challenging because sometimes you had to wake up at 6 a.m. for workouts, eat healthy food prepared by nutritionists, and maintain physical condition through exercise routines designed by experts with PhDs in sports science. What a joke! What a fucking joke! Now, after 24 hours in the medieval era, you've realized that your hard life as an NFL linebacker consisted of waking up in a bed that cost more than houses, in a climate-controlled room, with people paid to ensure your absolute comfort. Eating meals prepared by professional chefs, using ingredients that were transported from around the world to meet your exact nutritional needs. Training in facilities that had more advanced technology than NASA, with medical staff monitoring every aspect of your health through computers. Playing a game, a fucking game, where the worst thing that could happen was an injury that would be treated immediately by a team of medical specialists, followed by rehabilitation in luxury facilities, with full salary continuation and an eventual return to active play. Meanwhile, in medieval times, daily life consists of waking up in a pile of straw, that probably hasn't been changed since the Crusades. In a wooden shack that leaks, surrounded by smells that would make a sewage treatment plant seem fragrant. Eating food that probably violates several biological safety regulations and might actually be classified as hazardous waste in the modern world. Training that consists of people literally trying to kill you with medieval weapons, in conditions that have casualty rates higher than actual warfare, with medical treatment that has survival rates lower than the disease itself. And instead of playing a game with rules, referees, and safety protocols, you participate in activities that are designed to prepare you for situations where people will try to murder you and everyone you know, using methods that would make horror movie directors take notes. Holy shit, you whisper to yourself, watching the sun set through a castle wall that still has an arrow embedded in it from today's practice. I had no fucking clue. All those times you complained about NFL life being difficult. All those interviews where you talked about the sacrifices of a professional athlete. All those moments when you felt sorry for yourself because contract negotiations were stressful. You were living like a king compared to every other human in history. Your ancestors fought wars with swords. Your great-grandparents survived economic depressions. Your grandparents lived through world wars. Your parents worked multiple jobs to provide basic necessities. And you complained because the hotel room service was slow. You whined because airplane seats weren't comfortable enough. You demanded better contract terms because $12 million per year wasn't sufficient. You felt sorry for yourself because training was exhausting. I am a spoiled piece of shit, you announced to the universe. What? Brutus asks, confused. Nothing, you reply. Just realizing some things. As darkness falls over the medieval landscape, and you're about to face another night in a torture chamber that passes for a bedroom, you make a mental list of everything you'll never complain about again, assuming you survive long enough to return to the modern world. 1. NFL training camps. Even the hardest workouts in perfect facilities with professional medical support. 2. Contract negotiations, fighting over millions of dollars in air-conditioned offices. 3. Media pressure, answering questions about games instead of survival. 4. Travel fatigue, flying in luxury jets between luxury hotels. 5. Off-season workouts, maintaining peak physical condition in state-of-the-art gyms. 6. Team meetings, discussing strategy in comfortable conference rooms. 7. Injury concerns, being treated by specialists with advanced medical technology. 8. Performance anxiety, worrying about statistics instead of death. 9. Competition pressure, playing against other professional athletes instead of fighting for survival. 10. Retirement planning, managing millions of dollars instead of hoping to live until next week. Every single aspect of NFL life that you ever considered challenging was actually unprecedented luxury compared to how 99.9% of humans throughout history lived their daily lives. You had dietitians calculating optimal nutrition. Medieval people ate whatever they could find that wasn't completely poisonous. You had trainers designing exercise programs. Medieval people got physical conditioning through activities that might kill them. You had doctors preventing and treating injuries. Medieval people hoped that cuts wouldn't get infected and kill them. You had coaches teaching strategy. Medieval people learned tactics through surviving combat that killed everyone who made mistakes. You played in front of cheering crowds who admired your skills. Medieval warriors fought in front of people trying to murder them. Tomorrow morning, Brutus says, heading toward his own wooden shack, we practice mounted combat. Mounted combat? On horses that have psychological problems and might decide to throw you off a cliff for entertainment? But you just nod, because arguing with medieval training methods is a pointless exercise. Either you survive, or you become part of the daily casualty statistics that nobody keeps track of because death is so common it's not worth recording. As you make your way back to your pile of diseased straw that serves as a bedroom, you have one final realization that hits you harder than any tackle you ever experienced. If somehow you manage to return to the modern world, you'll never take a single moment of your privileged athlete life for granted again. Every comfortable bed will feel like a miracle. Every prepared meal will taste like a gourmet feast. Every safe training session will seem like a blessing from heaven. Every paycheck will represent freedom that medieval people couldn't imagine. Every day without someone trying to kill you will be a victory worth celebrating. If I survive this medieval hell, you promise to whatever gods might be listening, I'll be the most grateful athlete in the history of sports. I'll never complain about anything again. I'll appreciate every luxury, every comfort, every advantage that modern life provides. But first, you have to survive another night in the medieval torture chamber, followed by mounted combat training that will probably involve horses that want to kill you almost as much as the human opponents do. You lie down on the pile of straw that feels like sleeping on broken glass, mixed with biological hazards. Pull the diseased animal hide over yourself as a blanket, and close your eyes. Outside, you can hear the sounds of a medieval night. Wolves howling, drunken warriors singing about dismembering enemies, occasional screams that might be celebration or might be murder, and the creaking of wooden structures that sound ready to collapse. Inside your room, mice, hopefully mice, scurry around. The roof drips in multiple places, wind whistles through gaps in the walls, and you try to fall asleep while questioning every life choice that led you to this moment. But despite everything, despite the pain, discomfort, terror, and genuine fear for your survival, you can't help but smile slightly. Because you've discovered something that no amount of money, fame, or success could teach you: perspective. Tomorrow, you'll wake up, assuming you survived the night, and face another day of medieval hell that will probably be worse than today. But now you know, beyond any doubt, that being a professional athlete in the modern world is literally the easiest, most privileged, most blessed existence possible in the entire universe. And if you ever get back to that world, you'll never, never forget that lesson. Welcome to the end of your first day in medieval times, champ. Where you learned that NFL linebacker training is basically a luxury vacation compared to daily life in the Middle Ages, your biggest problems were actually tiny inconveniences, and your hard life was actually the ultimate privilege. Sleep well, assuming that's physically possible in conditions that would make prison cells seem comfortable. Tomorrow, mounted combat, which probably means horses trying to kill you while people on other horses also try to kill you simultaneously. Your medieval adventure continues, but now you know that no matter how bad it gets, it's still better than complaining about slow room service ever again. Sweet dreams, warrior. Try not to die in your sleep, because apparently that's a legitimate concern in your new lifestyle. And remember, if you survive to tell this story, nobody in the modern world will ever believe that medieval life could possibly be this fucked up. But you'll know, and that knowledge will make every moment of your privileged athlete life feel like a gift from heaven itself. End of the medieval saga. You survived the most fucked up day in the history of humanity. Liked this epic saga? Imagine if it was you waking up in the medieval era after a Super Bowl hangover. Leave in the comments which moment was the funniest, and if you could survive even one day in this insane medieval adventure.